Feel paralyzed.
All right, good morning, interwebs. Welcome. Oh, wait, wrong camera. That's my bad. We're on this camera. Welcome to Motor City Mayhem, Day 2.
Hell yeah.
All right, I am Lyle Dixon. I am here with the esteemed Tactical Tortoise himself,
Hey.
Mr. Trevi.
How's it going, everybody?
Hope you guys are ready for an exciting Day 2. We are. I got as much rest as possible because I knew this is going to be exciting.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of death today on Corn's table. I hope you're prepared.
I am. My body is ready for the level of bloodshed that's about to happen on our top table here at Motor City Mayhem 2022. We have a really interesting top bracket after the first day. We have, obviously, there's a representation of Tyranids and Eldari, but we also see some interesting undefeated. I know there's one Orcs player undefeated right now. We have some Necrons, and in our matchup today, Thousand Suns and Blood Angels, which very bloody. Should be
very. Corn's table deserves nothing less.
Absolutely.
After the first day, I think we can safely assume that the likelihood is that after this round, we may have to finally look at some meta lists. But we're going out with a bang here.
Absolutely.
We're going out with a bang.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what we've got today. We have, as Trevi said, we have Thousand Suns versus Blood Angels, my pride and joy. So let's dive into things here. So on the Blood Angel side, which if you don't mind, I'll take this one.
Yeah, I know these are your babies.
I actually know the
rules
rules
for
this army.
From you for the world.
So we have a Blood Angels battalion today. We are bringing. This was honestly I had never heard of this unit. I had to go double check what it did. We have a unit of Voidsmen at Arm. For basically a better version of what we used to take. The little, I keep forgetting their name, the little robot mechanics.
Servitors?
We used to take servitors as like a little 4-man objective holder for like a cheap number of points. This is just a better version of that for not much more, not many more points.
Absolutely.
So basically, you explained to me, it's basically veteran guardsmen.
Essentially, yeah. Yep. Yeah, they're just they're little guards with las guns. They have a 3+ ballistic skill, which is nice, but they're not. You're not expecting to deal damage with them. They're mostly there to sit on an objective and score you some points over the course of the game.
Which makes sense in a Blood Angel list because Blood Angels players typically move all of their models to the middle of the table and don't leave anything in the back. So cheap unit that can just sit in the back, it definitely doesn't want to go to the middle. That works out well.
Absolutely.
So we have a unit of Voidsmen at Arms. Then we have the trio of Blood Angels not named chapter masters, or not named characters, I'm sorry. We have a chapter master upgrade. He's got the Blood Angel special where he has a relic and 2 warlord traits. Blood Angels can do that with a chapter strat called Angel Exemplar. So he has the Soul Warden warlord trait, which is a 6-inch aura of 5-up feel no pain against mortals only. It just lets everybody have a chance to shake some mortals, which, as we talked about yesterday, makes perfect sense in the meta we're currently seeing. And I think that in this matchup, he's probably going to be pretty happy he brought that. Thousand Suns known to shoot mine bullets.
Yep.
So that should pay off. We also had, now he's got a Inferno Pistol and a Relic Blade. So he's a Blood Angel. He slaps, but not the craziest melee loadout. I think he's here for some of the other stuff he's bringing. He does have an interesting combo, which we were talking about. Rights of War, which is the famous Blood Angels warlord trait, or not Blood Angels warlord trait, Space Marine warlord trait, to give I think it's a 9-inch bubble? 6-inch bubble?
6-inch bubble.
6-inch bubble of all of your core units have OBSEC. But he's combined that with a Blood Angel specific relic called the Visage of Death, which is it's -1 to hit in shooting in melee, which is great when you don't want to die. But more importantly,
for the character himself.
Yeah, for the character himself. That's not the aura. I apologize.
Right.
The character has a -1 to hit. The second half of it, though, is a 3-inch bubble of nobody else has OBSEC. So combining that with the Rights of War, we have a relatively large bubble, extend out the obsec, but if we get really close and you have a bunch of obsec, we saw yesterday, like if you're playing Terminators and I have 40 Deathwing Terminators with obsec, well, I could just make all that go away, and then a single obsec now steals it off of your 10 Terminators. I don't have to deal with that problem anymore.
Yep.
So that can definitely make a powerful swing on primary as the game progresses. Following up, we have a classic Space Marine Librarian, not taking any of the Blood Angel spells, just taking Space Marine spells. So we have Null Zone, because apparently this player really likes to take things away from their opponent. So they have now also said we're going to take away all of your invuln saves, because Blood Angels really want things to die. And any rules you have that make it harder to die, we don't like that. So we're going to get rid of that. Then we have Psychic Fortress to have a bubble of our own invuln saves. And I actually don't know which one Psychic Scourge is. I haven't seen that one a lot. That sounds like probably a Mortals dealing spell, but we'll double check on that. But yeah, Psychic Scourge. The Librarian, as most Space Marine players have encountered at some point in your life, you assume the Librarian has an invuln, and it does not. Our Blood Angels player has fixed that. We have the Armor and Dominus, so we do have an invuln on this Librarian. 4-up invuln for most of the game. Once of the game, it can be a 3-up invuln. So which one was Psychic Scourge on there?
Yeah, so Psychic Scourge is a targeted smite out of the Librarian's Discipline. It's a Warp Charge 6, and then once it goes off, you and your opponent roll off and add their leadership characteristic. If you win, then your opponent suffers the target suffers D3 mortal wounds.
Okay. So
if you lose, they still take 1. So the D3
okay.
is the
so target smite with a guaranteed payoff as long as the spell doesn't get countered or whatnot. It doesn't go off. So then we have the Sanguinary Priest. Typical Sanguinary Priest stuff. Got the Selfless Healer, Warlord trait to automatically res people every turn. The important difference with a Sanguinary Priest versus your normal Apothecary is Sanguinary Priest is going to be having a jump pack. Because Blood Angels players like to go fast.
Yep.
So he is going to be able to keep up with all the fast, aggressive units. If you try to take any other healer from any other army, put them behind a jump pack unit, they're just never going to really keep up because your jump pack unit is going to fly ahead. This guy can actually keep up. He does typically do nothing in melee, but we have fixed that problem by adding the Teeth of Terra.
This is the most dangerous apothecary in the world.
Yeah, he is the most dangerous apothecary you've ever seen. So if he gets to melee, he's definitely going to slap much harder than you are used to seeing an apothecary do so in a Space Marine list.
Yeah, and that's the benefit from the Sanguinary Priest. Other unique differentiation from the Apothecary, which is that 2+ weapon skill on that guy.
Yes, he has a 2-up weapon skill, and I don't even know, not even all apothecaries even have a chainsword. So the fact that they can't even all take the Teeth of Terra, which is a big deal. In troops, we have 2 units of Incursors for a little bit of forward deploy, OBSEC. And then we have a unit of Intercessors, probably for his second backfield objective holder to go with the Voidsman Arms.
Yep.
Then we do have a spicy pick, which I haven't seen this in a Blood Angels list. We have 3 Aggressors. I'm not exactly sure.
Quite a bit this weekend.
We have seen a lot. I've been excited. Typically, when I see a Blood Angels list, I don't see Aggressors.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I'm excited to see how those work out. This may not be the match that he brought them for, but we're gonna see. I'm sure they will overperform nonetheless because they're Aggressors.
Of course,
that's just what they do.
They're just too aggressive.
Yeah,
you can't stop them.
Yeah, we do have the typical Blood Angels tech of a single unit of Death Company. This unit has 3 Thunderhammers and 2 Chainswords, splitting the difference so that if the Blood Angels player gets to go first, they do have the Death Company pregame move 12 inches before the game starts. If you know you're going first, you're getting another 12 inches. I don't believe... Yeah, this player does not have the Relic Banner, so he's only going to move 12 inches, but being able to pre-measure, say, I'm going 21st, or I'm going first, pre-measure 24 inches, know exactly what I can charge. Splitting the difference, we can either go at an infantry unit with some chain swords, put them into Assault Doctrine, AP1 or AP2 chain swords on the first turn. That can clear out a lot of chaff. If I want to get to a big scary unit with Thunderhammers, like we have some flexibility there with a pre-game move, which is really important. Then, as we alluded to yesterday, we have Sanguinary Guard, the Codex. So we have 2 units of 7 Sanguinary Guard, and then a unit of 5 Sanguinary Guard. The unit of 5 has swords, and then the other 2 units, 1 unit has swords, 1 unit has axes. So the swords and axes differ in that the axe is actually +2 strength. The sword is only +1, but the sword is AP3. The axe is only AP2. So they are better at different things. Back when like Death Guard had come out and we were all terrified of how durable Death Guard was, a lot of people switched to the axes so that Blood Angels, because you get this the chapter-wide rule of +1 to wound, axes almost guarantee you are always wounding infantry models on 2s. It doesn't matter what they are, Terminators, T5, whatever. Like you're usually just always going to hit them on or wound them on 2s with axes. Swords If you're not fighting anything that's T5, then the swords are perfect at wounding everything else on 2s and chewing through that AP. In this match, where we have Armor of Contempt now, AP3 is probably going to pay off. That seems, I would rather have that into specifically Thousand Suns than I would the Axis for sure. So that's going to be a big deal. And then to finish off, we have a unit of Eradicators, 3 Eradicators with a multi-melta in the squad. And then we have this is my old favorite tech from back in the day. We have 5 scouts who are actually in a land speeder storm.
Perfect.
So we can actually do the fly across the table, take an objective. If you want to kill me off of it, fine. 5 more guys are going to get out.
Yep.
So a lot of interesting play choices you can make using those 2 pieces.
Also super good, that unit for completing action secondaries. So things
Absolutely.
like Retrieve Knockmoon data is really easy with the Land Speeder Storm because it has assault transport.
Yep.
So you can move the transport and then disembark the scouts in whatever position you want to in order to.
Yeah, the scouts are, what is it, 55 for the speeder, and then the scouts are 74. So about 125 points for something that just has an almost infinite number of random things it could do.
Absolutely.
You could do random engage, you can go get objectives, you can steal objectives, you can eat a charge. Land Speeder Storms are great at just eating a charge, or I'm sorry, eating Overwatch when you want to follow up with a big charge. There's just, none of it's going to individually win you the game on that play, but it's a lot of just options that you can pick at any point when you feel like you need it. So very, very, I love seeing units like that where skilled players can really take advantage of it based on how the game unfolds.
Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of skilled players, we have 2 skilled players in this game, not just a Blood Angels player. We also have a Thousand Suns player. Trevi, would you like to talk a little bit about our Thousand Suns?
Yeah, moving over to the other side of the table, it does look like our score sheet maybe hasn't updated, so the players' names aren't on there. But we have TJ Lanigan on the other side against Sam Procopio's Blood Angels. TJ is playing Thousand Suns today, and a relatively standard Thousand Suns archetype here. We're seeing Thousand Suns do a lot better in the current metagame as a response to the benefit that they get from Armor of Contempt. It's a really big deal, especially in conjunction with their All Is Dust built-in ability to improve their armor saves against damage 1 weapons. You can stack that with Armor of Contempt because Armor of Contempt is not All Is Dust, is not an AP reducing effect. It's an armor save buffing effect, so the 2 go hand in hand. Makes the army, on the whole, extremely difficult to kill, and on top of that, with the amount of mortal wounds that they do, with that Armor of Contempt being live and a lot of other factions, and it being difficult to kill them, makes Thousand Suns just a real shoe-in for the current metagame. This is a single battalion detachment coming out of Cult of Duplicity, so we have access to that Sorceress Facade as well as Master Misinformer. So we have pre-game redeploys on the Thousand Sun sides, as well as the Psychic Power to re-Deep Strike your units as well. That makes things like large Scarabockel Terminator bricks much more maneuverable, and you're much more easily able to circumvent the low speed that is typically a trait of a normal Thousand Suns army. In that battalion detachment, we have Araman. He's bringing Twist of Fate. That's another invulnerable save ignoring mechanic that we have today. That is a targeted remove invulnerable saves on something. He's also bringing Presage and Weaver of Fate, so some of the support powers on Araman. We have an Exalted Sorcerer. This guy has a pretty interesting build. He's bringing Athenaean Scrolls to buff the casts of a single spell throughout the entirety of the game. He has the Rahati upgrade to allow him to cast an additional power, as well as Arrogance of Eons, which allows him to reroll his denies. So just like we're seeing with all of these other Armor of Contempt factions, we're building in this anti-psychic phase technology with these, buffed denies, anti-mortal wound abilities, and that's not only to try to counter the prevalence of Warpcraft secondaries currently being taken in GT Knockmoon, but also to try to fight against armies like Tyranids and other Thousand Suns armies that are going to be trying to pile mortal wounds onto you in the Psychic phase. Following that up, we have an Infernal Master. This guy is bringing Egligan's Egligans. I did it. There it is. Egligan's Orrery.
Yeah, that's better than I could do.
Which allows you to ignore modifiers when attacking a particular unit, so you can shoot through things like dense cover and don't have to worry about that. So it's targeted to a unit that is in the bearer's line of sight, however, and it has to be used in the command phase, which means that there is some counterplay to it. If you have a unit that's benefiting from a hit penalty, for example, you can hide them from the Egligant's Orrery carrier, and he wouldn't be able to use it for that turn. He would have to move more aggressively in order to try to set it up for a future turn. What we're trying to do with that is set up a big combo hit, essentially, with the ranged attacks on big bricks of Scarabacul Terminators. To fill out the battalion detachment, before we get there too far, though, we do have several units of Rubric Marines. 3 units of 5 Rubrics, just to hold objectives, act as additional casters, and just be generally pretty good troops options. We also have 2 units of Thousand Sons Cultists to fill the rest of that troops allotment out. But following that up, we have the actual important stuff that people are excited about. We have 2 units of Scarabacul Terminators, 10 Scarabacul Terminators apiece, each one of them bringing 2 Soul Reaper cannons and 2 Hellfire missile racks as well. So the full loadout of heavy weapons on those guys. Essentially, what we're going to be trying to do is pump as many of the buffs into that unit as possible. We do have the Empiric Guidance to extend their range by 6 inches. We, with the Infernal Master, can bump the strength of their guns by 1, and then we can use abilities like the Veterans of the Long War equivalent that Thousand Sons have, with the name of which I forget off the top of my head, to give them +1 to wound, and they deal absolutely face-melting damage with that fusillade of fire. They're also extremely difficult to kill themselves, because they have access to that Undying Legion stratagem, which will reduce damage against them by 1. Once they're buffed up with effects like Weaver of Fates, it's very difficult to get through their invulnerable saves, and as we talked about before, they're stacking Armor of Contempt with All Is Dust to be extremely hard to take out, especially with low AP weapons. More often than not, you're going to be firing into a 2+ armor save on those guys with that damage reduction, with all of these effects in play, and it's very difficult to remove these entire units.
I got to play against a Thousand Sons list with a lot of these pieces with my Tau list a week or 2 ago, and Tau is known for crippling damage, and I was having trouble picking up anything quickly with the Tau guns that I brought. The ability, the one that caught me off guard, as you alluded to earlier, the fact they could turn anything into -1 damage.
Yep.
And just all of a sudden the math changes. You think it's like, oh, I'm ignoring all your rules because I'm damage 2 and I just get to not have to worry about that. That's just not true. And I have an unfortunate thing to admit, Trevi. Blood Angels, I've alluded to being Sanguinary Guard the Codex. Blood Angels is also damage 2 the Codex.
That's true.
Every weapon on this list does 2 damage. Either 1 damage or 2 damage. There is nothing higher. Well, the Thunder Hammers can deal 3. So there's 3 Thunder Hammers that can deal 3 damage. That is it. Everything else in the list, other than like the Eradicator shooting or the random number or whatever, all the melee weapons are doing 2 damage. And I have a feeling TJ is about to spam the -1 damage strat, because that's really going to change a lot very quickly on these Terminators.
Yep.
So that's going to be something the Blood Angels players are going to have to overcome.
It is an expensive stratagem. You end up dropping 2 or 3 CP every time you activate that. But if it does blunt your opponent's most important attack, that can very quickly end the game, especially if those Scarabacul Terminators can swing back and clip out whatever's trying to kill them.
Yep.
I remember when that Blood Angels Codex dropped, the Death Guard Codex dropped right afterwards, and everyone was sad because of that -1 damage effect.
Death Guard made me stop playing Blood Angels for a while because I just couldn't figure out what to do about it. Dr. Deuce is saying that strat only works against range, though, and that's true. Then that's going to definitely help the Blood Angels out a lot more than I thought. I just assumed it worked on everything. So if it's only against range, that's definitely a boon for the Blood Angels, because they do not like -1 damage at all.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we are definitely not operating much in the shooting phase when with this Blood Angels army. Yeah, that's true. It is when you're targeted in the opponent's shooting phase.
Okay, so that's a relief then for the Blood Angels player for sure.
Okay.
All right, and the Blood Angels player is going first, so I imagine we're going to start seeing he doesn't have to. TJ is a very smart player. TJ may have deployed in such a way there's no reason to do a Forlorn Fury to pregame move the Death Company, so we'll see if that's what our Blood Angels player chooses to do. I would imagine TJ didn't give him any juicy targets for a turn 1 charge, knowing that Blood Angels can do that.
Yep.
All right, so scoreboard is updated while our Blood Angels player starts moving. Let's go ahead and take a look at our secondary choices.
Yeah, so we are Blood Angels on the bottom of the screen here, now doing their movements up into the ruins. Just as a reminder, everyone, we do have a U.S. Open style layout today, so all of the terrain features have a transparent base under them that defines the outline of the terrain feature. But those 3-dimensional elements on top of them, at least for the 4 large ruins in the corners, have been ruled to be entirely opaque. So any gaps or windows within them are going to be ignored, meaning that not only does the base of the terrain feature block line of sight if you are behind it, but the intervening elements on top of it also will block true line of sight as well.
All right, so our Bludgeons player has taken Stranglehold, which, I mean, it makes a lot of sense because they probably want to go in the middle table anyway. So saying I'm going to fight over the middle table, we talked about it yesterday. You want to pick secondaries that are going to get you points when you do what you have to do anyway.
Yep.
Stranglehold is pretty much what they have to do anyway. So they've gone with that. They've also gone similarly with Oath of Moment because, again, they're saying I kind of just need to be in the middle of the table at some point in this game. So we're going to take Oath of Moment because that's where I want to be and just start trying to farm 3 or 4 points a turn if possible. And we've also taken R&D. We talked about the ability for we have a little bit of random nonsense that can just kind of go over in different places and do some of these actions. We did start with the I was told that the scout started in the speeder. The speeder has moved up to the middle, so I don't guess they are planning on doing R&D right now. But the voidsmen and Arvs were put into outflank.
There you go.
So that sounds like that's another reason he's brought them in. They just kind of, you're not going to be able to screen out 5 tiny units like that very easily. So they should be able to find a spot they can sneak in at some point in the game. Also, the Blazers player is going to bum rush the middle. At some point, the thousands of those players are going to have to respond, which may leave room in the back for some voidsmen to kind of sneak in and go do that R&D behind them.
We do have those cultist units on the side of the table for the Thousand Suns, which may be able to give them enough bodies to screen out their backline. But like you said, this mission is going to be very aggressive, and it may behoove TJ to be using those units to trade for these objectives and try to block 12-point primary turns for the Blood Angels player and potentially score the bonus point himself. Because we are in Abandoned Sanctuaries today, the bonus point for this mission is holding the objective in the center or killing enemy units within 6 inches of the center, meaning that that Oath of Moment pick for the Blood Angels makes even more sense, given that they already have to be moving towards the center of the table regardless.
That seems to be, we frequently hear players talk about picking secondaries, like trying to figure out how to, they made their list and they need to figure out what secondaries should they build into their list. The first step of that is figuring out what your list trying to do, because you just want to make a list of what are the things that already fit with what you're going to do anyway, as we talked about yesterday. You don't want to say, well, I want a list that wants to dive bomb the middle, but I also want to build in R&D with a couple things that might go off to the side. You'd rather just, what am I going to do? What is going to happen when I get there? What can I build into just getting while I'm there? If I want to be in the middle as a Bludgeons player, what objectives benefit me for just being in the middle already? So, the Stranglehold Oath of Moments, very natural picks for lists like this, like our Deathwing Terminator list we saw yesterday, things like that. I'm a little surprised, honestly, to see R&D as a Bludgeons player. It's not my personal favorite, simply because I really hate it when I have to dictate where my jump pack units go.
Right.
I don't like my secondary saying I have to go put this unit over here, even though I really need them to go kill something over here, and then I'm choosing between dealing with a threat or getting 4 points. He's undefeated with Blood Angels, and I've never been undefeated with Blood Angels in a GT, so I'm going to trust him on this. He probably knows what he's doing. He's had much more success than I have, so power to him. Blood Angels, I know I've heard you talk a few times about the various melee armies on your channel. Blood Angels are really, really fun to play, but I don't ever think of them as a forgiving army, because you have to, we talked about overextending yesterday. You kind of have to overextend as a Blood Angels player, and you have to overwhelm with all of the crazy threat ranges you can get with your jump packs. If you overextend even more than you're supposed to, it can just, everything collapses.
Yep.
So it's good. I'm very interested to see how this game plays out, because this Thousand Sun list can put out a lot of hurt.
For
and
sure.
if you extend in the wrong place at the wrong time, you're just gonna die.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're 2 up with armor contempt, you're gonna die.
Yeah, and I think to that point, right, one of the reasons that Blood Angels is doing so much better now is that they have some resilience against that overextension because they're harder to kill.
Right.
That Armor of Contempt in conjunction with the 2+ armor save is a really powerful ability, and when you can do that on a unit that moves 12 inches a turn with +1 to advance and charge like the Sanguinary Guard, that's a really big deal. The downside is that a lot of the damage output of a Thousand Suns army does not care at all about Armor of Contempt, because it's going to be in mortal wounds, and they
which
don't get
at
saves
least
against those.
we have way more defense than normal. We have Soul Warden, which not every list picks. That's definitely a meta. When we see that occasionally, but it's always meta dependent when it comes up.
Yeah.
And this is definitely, he's going to benefit from having it here. Hopefully, sometimes you just don't make 5 ups. So, sometimes you make all the 5 ups. Like, Well, I guess we're going to find out. We'll see what happens.
Yep. Chad is pointing out that there is no fight last whirlwind in the Blade Angels army. Usually you have for these melee-focused Space Marine armies, you have a whirlwind sitting in the back there, not necessarily to do any damage to your opponent's army, but just to use suppression fire to force no Overwatch and fight last, so that your guys can engage across a wider frontage of the enemy army without worrying about it. But yeah, none of that in this Blood Angels army for Sam.
Yeah,
today.
I don't want to rant on this because I feel like we're way too early in the day for me to start ranting. The whirlwind
Let it
is
loose, Lau.
the
Let's
whirlwind
go.
is such a contentious discussion topic in Blood Angels chats. It's really 50-50. People either say the whirlwind makes or breaks the list, or you have people like Jack Harpster, Richard Siegler, who have played Blood Angels to varying success at different events. The people who kind of follow their line of thinking think it's an absolute waste of like 105 points or whatever it is. I as a Blood Angels player, I don't know any topic that I've seen Blood Angels player argue about more. It's I honestly don't even really have an opinion on it because I don't play them enough anymore to argue about it. But I have had to tell people it's time to stop the conversation because people get very, very defensive of their position in that. So
it's almost like it's an explosive argument.
There you go.
Hey.
The one thing I do want to say as our Blood Angels players finishing up their move, there is a decision in this list I'm shocked by as a Blood Angels player.
Tell me.
There is no relic banner on a Sanguinary Ancient.
Yes.
And I do not know the last time I saw a Blood Angels list that did not have that.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, the Sanguinary Ancient is the Sanguinary Guard, the gold armor guy with a jump pack that's carrying the flag. And there is a Blood Angels relic that flag gives +2 inches movement to all jump pack units that start their move within, I believe, 6 inches of it. So you end up with your entire army, because Blood Angels armies are usually all jump pack. You have an entire army that moves 14 inches, which that's a big deal. I do not know the last time I saw a Blood Angels list that did not have that, so I would definitely be interested to talk to Sam afterwards and kind of pick his brain about why he thought other things were a better like meta call maybe right now. The aggressors over a Sanguinary Ancient with the relic is interesting. Like, I would definitely think the +2 movement is more important than 3 aggressors.
Yep.
I understand the Eradicator's pick. Sometimes you just want to have something that can reach out and touch something at a distance. Totally get that. But as I said earlier, we don't see a lot of aggressors other than this weekend specifically where we've seen a lot of aggressors.
Yeah.
But I love the relic banner. It's just +2 inches to move is so good army wide.
Absolutely, yeah. I think the one downside of it's called Wrath of Baal is the name of the relic standard, but the one downside of that is it sort of dictates your positioning on the jump pack units. So you kind of you're sort of forced to cluster your stuff together if you want to get the benefit of that, and that can make your order of operations for movement a little bit funky. But the upside is +2 inches of the threat range on your Sanguinary Guard, and that is a really big deal.
Yeah, it makes a big difference on the Death Company too, because it's very easy to set up a Forlorn Fury, move 12 inches. If you're going first, you move the Sanguinary Ancient out, maybe to the middle of the table. If that's where you want to be anyway, you move your castle out there. Then you end the Sanguinary Guard or the Sanguinary Ancient within 6 inches of the back Death Company, who then get the benefit if they move last from the +2 inches. So then they move 12 inches free game +14 inches on the second turn.
Yep.
And even just +2 inches, because bludgers always get +1 to charge. So now you're basically getting +3 inches towards what you would want to when you charge. That makes it much harder to move everything back so that you can't be bad touch from that pregame move. I don't know. I may have confirmation bias because I always play it and it's always amazing. +2 inches is just it's hard to understate how good it is when you can give it to everything in your army functionally. Dr. Dude's asking about Soul Warden. There is Soul Warden on the Blengel side on the Chapter Master.
Yep.
He has Angel Exemplar to have 2 Warlord traits. So he has Soul Warden and Rights of War. All right, so I want to try our new trick, Trevi. Trevi showed me some of his technological genius.
Mm-hmm.
So we started the Thousand Sun's turn now. Thousand Sun sent a Chaos Spawn up here. We have advanced onto this objective. And now we see TJ is measuring everything else out. He wants to kind of get up here. Just trying to get, if he can get 2 things out here, he's going to be able to steal this objective away and get his own personal stranglehold. So we see him kind of looking at what can he move out into the open without fear of that counter punch from the Blood Angels on the next turn.
Yeah. Yeah, TJ here. One thing that we missed when we were talking about his list, he does have 3 units of Chaos Bond in the list, 1 of 1, and then 2 of 2. And for 23 points a model, I mean, they kind of have the Cyberwolf effect where just being able to take a single model unit for 23 points is in and of itself powerful. But Chaos Bond themselves have a very efficient stat line. You also have the stratagem for Thousand Suns to choose their mutation instead of rolling randomly, so they are a little bit benefited as well. There's a little bit of synergy for the faction. And if you need them to win the fight with another objective holding unit, then they will certainly do that. They will hit harder than almost every random little troops unit in 40k.
Yeah, so we've definitely seen on the flanks the Chaos Spawn have come up. Makes perfect sense because he does not want to expose those Terminators or Rubiks if he doesn't have to.
Yep.
I mentioned about it yesterday. You don't want it. You want to be the person to hit second. You don't want to be the person that gets. You want to let your opponent crash into something useless, and then you get to hit them with a counter punch. So throwing these Chaos Spawn out here, the Blade Angels player doesn't have many things that can kill it at a range, so he's going to have to put something up there if he wants to take off the objective. All of the big power armor and Terminator armor stuff behind it can then hopefully come up on the second turn, but he does not want to put that out there right now if he can help it.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah, and especially, I mean, this is one thing that we saw in our Space Wolf versus Deathwing game yesterday, the last game of the Friday here in Motor City Mayhem 2022. Super fun game, but definitely sort of showcased the downside of having an army that is so focused on melee attacks, like that Deathwing army, where there's very little way to interact with it in the shooting phase. So or for it to interact in the shooting phase. So TJ can throw these Chaos Spawn up. He holds those objectives, and it's unreliable for Sam to be able to remove them without charging them in melee. And the last thing he wants to do right now is engage those things in melee with a big unit of Sanguinary Guard, because you're just giving them up. You're running out of your defensive auras. You're running right into the perfect smite, shoot, then charge range from the Scarab called Terminator units, and you will lose yourself a big Sanguinary Guard unit for very little gain.
All right, so Blade Angels did pop their first R&D with the aggressors on turn 1. I'm confirming, but I believe the aggressors are down in this bottom ruin.
That is
over here.
That is a ballsy
Yeah.
retrieve Nakamun there. A 3-man unit trying to complete the action.
I guess it worked though. Apparently,
Yeah. You can give them objective secured with right support, right? So they do get the +1 to.
Oh wait! I
get
said it backwards. I'm sorry. He did it with the infiltrators that are next to the aggressors.
Okay,
that makes
much
way
more
more sense.
Perfect.
Okay. No, so I'm incorrect. I'm getting confirmation from our table judge. The R&D was done in this quarter right here. So those infiltrators did the R&D in this bottom quarter. We can try to keep track of it over the course of the game if we can. But we have taken out this bottom left quadrant for R&D.
Very nice.
I'm so excited that you showed me how to write on the screen. This is awesome. This
Yeah.
is why you hire a professional, guys.
Definitely
I'm a
helps things out.
hobbyist streamer. Trevi's the professional, and I am benefiting from his expertise.
There you go. Perfect. So I think we're definitely going to see some defensive play out of TJ here. Again, his army isn't particularly fast, so unless we are getting those Sorcerer's Facades out early, and Sam has positioned very defensively, he's really only given up that Landspeeder Storm to be engaged by the Thousand Suns if they drop anywhere. The rest, the big bricks that TJ actually wants to get the grips on are hiding inside those opaque ruins in each of the ruins on the right and left side of the table. So there's very little way to get any shots on them. So as we can see, TJ is just pushing forward a little bit in range to threaten those the 3 center objectives, but not giving up too much. It's definitely against a player who is playing, I would say, as conservatively as Sam, because he does have the ability to move farther, faster up the table. He's just not incentivized to do so.
I've gotten into arguments with people on some of your channels before, some of your streams, about if Blood Angels are a aggressive army or counterpunch army, and I think a lot of people historically just think Blood Angels run forward and just hope it works out. I think the most successful Blood Angels players, and obviously Sam's 3-0, that he must be having some success. He's some amount of experience to be 3-0. Usually, if you can not run forward and stand open, you're going to end up doing better. So we're seeing that kind of KG using some ruins, try to hop over things in charge phase the next turn. We see both players really setting up for future turns at this point. If he had just YOLO'd onto the middle of the table, I assure you there would be no Blood Angels left before the next turn started.
Right. And that is the big downside of Blood Angels as well. And one of the reasons that they were, a little bit maligned, I guess, as a melee Space Marine army, which is that they don't really have any threat range enhancers besides their own +1 to charge. Maybe there's a chaplain in there, maybe there's that +2 movement banner, but you don't have things like advance and charge in White Scars that can really send your threat range into the stratosphere. And for that reason, they don't play quite as well aggressively because they are just sort of riverboat gambling to try to get those charges off. And like Lyle said, if you don't do that, the game's over and you probably die. So we are going to see some KG play from both these players, both of them using their utility units, the random scoring units, to get some early points and contest each of those objectives. This is a very aggressive mission typically, so it is going to be interesting to see how things play out in the mid to late game as we move through this turn 1.
All right. I'm sorry if I was picked up on your headset there, Chad. If you hear me, I'm trying to be our resident upstairs TO at the same time as streaming. So I apologize.
Man
So
of
that was
many
distracting.
talents over here.
Many tasks at least. I don't know about talents. Yeah.
Sounds like players may be breaking models over there.
Yeah, it
too
looks like
now.
we may have dropped something.
Yeah,
That's Heidi's hobby stuff. So if there's glue, it's in there. Otherwise, you're gonna have to go to like one of our vendors. Yeah, we have many vendors here at Motor City Mayhem. So if we need to put glue, I'm sure we can find some.
Good shout out.
Yeah, go down to the vendor hall, everybody. It's awesome.
There you go.
Especially those of you who aren't here. You should drive here, come say hi to me and Trevi, and then go down to the vendor hall.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we do still have events going on over the remainder of the weekend, even if you're not in the 40K GT. We do have RTTs and doubles events going on.
There's
right?
a doubles event tomorrow and a 40K RTT. And then we started today because this is, only second year. First year it was all 40K. That was all we cared about. This year, today, we started a Age of Sigmar GT. We have a Bolt Action GT. There's another historical, like a traditional historical minis GT downstairs. There's a Kill Team GT. There's a whatever the Age of Sigmar version of Kill Team is. I don't remember. We got all kinds of minis today.
And we do have, I think it's about 250 people in total across all of the different game systems over here.
Yeah, it might be closer to 3, but yeah.
Yeah, which is, for the second year of the event, very impressive. So...
Craig, I am not the person who has selected the events, but I'm sure that our TOs, Pete and Tom, if you were interested in something like Combat Patrol GT, I'm sure that if there was enough interest, they would be more than willing to consider that. So always looking for what the community wants and what we can add that will make people happy.
Combat Patrol would be super cool. I'm of the opinion, I think Combat Patrol is an underrated competitive format for 40K, because the cool thing is that the games last 40 minutes, so you can get a lot of games in a day. You can even play best of 3 maybe if you wanted to. It's a good time.
Yeah, I've watched some Combat Patrol on your stream a few times, and I was shocked at how blisteringly fast it was.
It is, and it's very exciting as well too, because every individual dice roll makes a big difference.
Yeah.
So tiny, minute details that get overlooked in a game of 40K are absolutely game-changingly important.
All right, so we have started the Psychic phase. We're going to be getting updates from our table boss as the Psychic phase goes on. I don't imagine this is going to be the most active Psychic phase, because I know a lot of the Thousand Sun stuff are smites and damages and things like that, and there's probably not a lot they can reach out and touch at the moment, but I'm sure they'll be setting up any defensive buffs they might need.
Yep.
In case there's an incursion next turn.
Yeah, we're probably going to be getting some support powers down, but not too much going on. We do have, I think hilariously in this matchup, a Zangar Shaman in this Thousand Suns list as well, with Perplex, which caps the range of an enemy ranged unit up to 24 inches. Not going to be super useful against this particular Blood Angels build.
Yep.
Not much to target with that, unfortunately.
What I do love, all right, so we're getting some updates. Psychic Interrogation has gone off and been made undeniable using some Cabal points, I believe they're called.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of that, I don't think we ever went over the Thousand Suns secondaries. We stopped with the Blood Angels. So Thousand Suns, Have Stranglehold also, which they've set up with their Chaos Spawn. Psychic Interrogation, so they just want to cast a spell on a character every turn. Especially if you can make it undeniable every turn with some Cabal points. Going to be pretty easy to get 12 or 15 points on that, as long as you can keep your Psyker alive and don't accidentally kill all the Blood Angels characters early.
Yep.
And then finally, Wrath of Magnus, which, Trevi, will you let us know what that one does?
Yeah, so you score 3 victory points at the end of the battle round if your opponent both has Psychers and you killed more units in the with Psychic powers than your opponent did. So an interesting secondary that can kind of take advantage of the fact that a lot of armies, as we've been seeing, have been splashing Psychers, not only to take advantage of things like Psychic Interrogation, but also to protect against enemy Warpcraft secondaries or particularly powerful Psychic powers. So it's kind of a reverse Abhor the Witch, where instead of benefiting from yourself not taking any Psychers, you get to prey upon your opponent having one or more Psychers. Because there, outside of maybe Tyranids, there are basically no armies in the game that are going to be out damaging a Thousand Suns army in the Psychic phase.
And I imagine simply you just don't pick that against Tyranids, so it's fine. You do something else.
Yeah, it turns out you can change your secondaries from game to game. Did you know that? Very cool.
That's much more powerful than not changing your secondaries.
It's true. That would be terrible and boring.
All right. So we got we just do one mortal wound to the Sanguinary Guard with targeted smite of some sort. Glamour of Zinch and Weaver. I don't remember all the names, guys, but Glamour and Weaver have gone off on one of the Terminator units.
Mm-hmm. So Glamour being -1 to hit, Weaver of Fates improves their invulnerable save by 1.
Yep. We are making sure that unit is not going to die next turn.
Yep. Not that we're in particular danger with those Terminators.
Yeah, I don't. Now I was going to mention this before we talked about the secondaries. I do love what I'm seeing with the cultists. We kind of have like layers upon layers of this onion. The cultists are like, it looks like to me a middle layer. I think we have some rubrics out in the front. Then we have cultists, and then we have the big unit terminators that we don't want to die. Blighters are very good at killing cultists at range. Sanguinary Guard are surprisingly good at shooting nonsense. They all have an Assault 2, Strength 4, AP 1 bolt gun on their wrist.
Yep.
So they actually put out a lot more shots into T3, T4 low armor save models than you would expect.
Right.
They can clear that out. But that's not even the outermost layer, which I really, really love. We've got the rubrics on the outside so that even if we do want to come out and fire stuff away, there's no way you're killing the rubrics with that shooting. And the rubrics charging the Sanguinary Guard is just going to not let the Sanguinary Guard have control of what they want to do. So we have multiply. We're playing a little Shrek here. We got layers on this onion. We are making sure that you are not getting to these Terminators under any circumstances.
Is it an onion or a parfait?
I mean, I prefer onions to parfaits.
Whoa!
Look, man, when my wife and I have a rule.
You say that on stream? That's scandalous.
My wife and I have a rule. When it's time to cook dinner, you start cooking the onions, you cook the garlic, and then you figure out what you're making. All right. So, that's just my household rule. Is whatever. We've never had a parfait in my house since I got married. So clearly, I have a favorite.
So, some aggressive moves here from the Blood Angels. Looks like we've sent a unit into that Chaos Spawn on the left-hand side. That is a Sanguinary Guard unit, yeah? Oh, man.
On the left side, yes. So we have the Sanguinary Guard moving over here.
That's very aggressive. Like we talked about, the
Sanguinary Guard have moved up here.
Yep.
Second layer of Sanguinary Guard are still here in the ruin. This may be, I think this is the 5-man unit here.
Understood.
So our quote-unquote disposable Sanguinary Guard. Not that I would ever consider any of them disposable. That was a very expensive disposable unit if we were going to take one. They're no Voidsman arm, let me tell you. Apparently, our players have taken a break to talk about their time on Team Canada together at the World Team Championships. So, high priorities on decision making in this game.
Absolutely. That's good to see some table talk, I think, at the table. Both the players just enjoying their time and having a good time with it.
You know what? I love competitive 40K. We're all here because we want to win. But as we talked about yesterday, there's only one winner, and you got to have a way to get joy from it in these other situations where you know that you may not end up being the grand champion. So I think most of us come to these events because we enjoy the camaraderie, the team talk, the sportsmanship, just hanging out with people. That's what you want to see at these events in the first place. So.
Absolutely. And I think one thing to note about this particular game state, and one of the reasons that I think it looks a little bit funky right now, we are trading, Sanguinary Guard units for spawn, which is not really in a Space Marine army what you want to be doing. That is because the additional ability of Abandoned Sanctuaries does restrict your forward deployment for your units. So you're actually not allowed to deploy anything or pregame move anything outside your deployment
That's right.
zone.
We couldn't have done that this game. You're right. I didn't think about that.
So you can't, push things like incursors super far forward and use them to fight over the center objectives in the early game, which means that we are, on Sam's side, forced to start to make these aggressive plays in order to prevent TJ from getting an early 12-point primary objective score.
I don't personally love the way he's gone about this. I agree with you that we do want to find a way to not let ourselves be dug in a hole. I don't know what his plan is with the aggressors. I feel like we could line up shots into a unit of Chaos Spawn to take one of them off. Maybe if we could figure out a way to get some of our lovely Sanguinary Guard shots into Chaos Spawn on the left, maybe we could line up an Eradicator over there. The aggressors we know are over, or the aggressors are down on the bottom. So maybe the Eradicators on the side or Infiltrators on the side. We don't need to take all three objectives in the middle, and I feel like that's something players get caught in sometimes.
Yeah.
As they think I need to go out and my opponent's on an objective, I need to go take that away from them. You don't necessarily have to take both of them to get Stranglehold. You need to just kill one of them. And I feel like I would like to see that. And then one of our disposable units, our Infiltrators, our Intercessors, Eradicators, because Eradicators kill Terminators, so I guess they're okay in this matchup. The Aggressors, whatever. I would love to see one of them walk up, steal one from the Chaos Spawn, and let's just bolter gun the other Chaos Spawn. Putting even 4 Sanguinary Guard, because one did die to the Psychic Phase last turn. I don't like seeing them out there.
I know.
Yeah.
It's very. I understand how it can be hard for you to watch.
Yeah,
I
don't. It feels like a really unnecessary extension at this point.
Yeah, the other thing to keep in mind though is that unit is being targeted down by TJ's targeted smites right now, and there is a non-zero chance that you don't get too much use out of it for Sam in the coming turn if it gets smited to death. So even if it's a trade down, if you're, it's likely that you're going to lose a unit, and your choices are, especially for Psychic Phase, where you're positioning for the unit being attacked doesn't matter that much.
Yeah.
Being in cover or whatnot usually doesn't make a huge difference. You have a choice between, keeping the units relatively safe, losing it eventually, but doing nothing, and playing more aggressively, getting a Chaos Spawn, preventing a 12-point turn, and still losing it. You're probably going to take the lesser of two evils, I guess.
Yeah, I was verifying with the table boss because even being down a model, we can bring one back for free every turn. But unfortunately, the Sanguinary Priest is in the bottom right corner with all the other units, which I'm not sure I love that because it looks like we got 2 units of Sanguinary Guard on the left, and then the Sanguinary Priest that can res them is on the right.
Right.
And I feel like I would rather him be where the most units of Sanguinary Guard are, which is a little unfortunate because if we could just Sanguinary Guard, as we talked about, a lot more hard to kill, and if you're bringing one back every turn, that's going to add up over the course of the game pretty quickly. But if you just know that your Sanguinary Guard is not in position to ever bring any back, then I guess they become more throwaway if you think you're going to be targeted down. There's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, and that might also be just by virtue of the spread nature of this mission. There's 3 objectives along the center of the table, and you do have a long table edge deployment, so you have a lot of area to cover.
Yeah.
And I think if Sam were to concentrate all his army on one side of the table versus the other, there's a non-zero chance that TJ is able to use his Thousand Suns redeployment abilities like Sorcerer's Facade and his pregame redeployment to kind of refuse flank that side and force Sam to cross that table anyway and run into the bevy of those smites.
Yeah.
So I think Blood Angels may be between a rock and a hard place in terms of that positioning. But on the flip side, they do have a little bit of sort of a dominating position on the primary objectives right now. They're threatening the 2 side objectives. And as soon as they start getting rid of these smaller utility units, and they don't have to worry about those anymore, they can threaten any Thousand Suns units that go for those objectives.
Yeah.
There's not really much right now that's threatening the center of the table besides I think there's a Scarab Occult brick maybe slightly off there, but
yeah, there's one in the back. Looks like one in the back left and right behind the ruins.
That is going to slowly be bleeding TJ those primary objective bonus points if he's not able to start taking that.
Yeah. I guess my question is, I'm not even sure why we need to take the objective in the middle left. because the captain's on the right with the OBSEC and no OBSEC auras. So we already have Stranglehold. Anyway, we just toe touch the middle right objective because anything that touches it gets OBSEC, and the Chaos Spawn's not OBSEC. So you're going to get Stranglehold. You're going to be holding 3 objectives. We know you're getting Oath because he didn't move anything to the middle table. I feel like fighting over the left objective is not even necessary right now unless he's trying to force TJ to commit things. You put Force Sanguinary Guard over there, something's going to have to go over and deal with it, so maybe he's hoping he can pull stuff away from the right side of the table so that his castle on the right will be able to move forward and crack into it a little more recklessly because there won't be as much there to respond. But with the fact that the captain with the OBSEC, Rights of War, and Visage of Death is in that building means this is that the Chaos Spawn being there didn't matter this turn for the Blood Angel score at the very least. All right, so Sanguinary Guard that moved out are splitting fire into the spawn and some of the cultists that they can draw line of sight to. The Incursors shot into the solo spawn, whittled it down over here. So let me use my fancy drawing tool. So Incursors shot here, whittled this guy down. These Sanguinary Guard are shooting these spawn, and then I believe there are cultists maybe around the corner back here, I think, that we're shooting at with some of our shots. So we're just putting some pot shots in. The Sanguinary Guard are very good at shooting cultists, for sure. But I guess most things are.
Yeah.
It's hard to be bad at shooting cultists.
Cultists are one of the most fun things in the game to shoot at because they tend to be removed in great droves.
Yeah. You always feel like you did something when you shoot cultists.
Yep.
This is interesting to me, though, the fact that TJ did not make any play here. Just based on the Oath of Moment secondary, that it doesn't appear that he was interested in challenging that whatsoever. Two spawn here take this objective away, as far as I understand. It doesn't look like any of the OBSEC got onto it.
Right.
The Storm is not OBSEC, and he has 2 units of 2 cultists, or I'm sorry, 2 units of 2 spawn and a single spawn. The single spawn is over here.
Yep.
Which I believe means this is the 2-man spawn right here.
That's what it looks like.
I feel like they could have made a play here if they had wanted to. So it's interesting that he did not choose to follow that up and attempt to put a speed bump in the way of just maxing Oath quickly. Because if you just start getting, I guess you're not going to max it because you can't kill. There's nothing to kill right now.
Right.
So he's not going to get the 2
The
points.
Oath does just require you to be there. It doesn't require you to actually hold the center objective. You just have to be wholly within 6 inches.
Oh, I thought
of
it was
the
you had to hold the center. Okay,
No.
I got. No, you're right. You're right.
The bonus point is holding the center objective or killing people in the middle.
Yes. Because it's 1 point if you're in the middle, 2 points if you kill a character, monster, or vehicle, I believe, and 1 point if you didn't fall back with anything.
Correct.
So that's not as important. I was thinking I'm thinking like Stranglehold, where if you're holding it, then you get your 2 points. But it's not even a 2-point one, so it doesn't matter. It's just only 1 point. That makes more sense then, because we definitely are not going to let the Blood Angels player kill any of the characters to get 2 points.
Right.
So, because they are all ultra important to the Thousand Suns plan, so we're not going to expose them unnecessarily. Although, I know you've played War Machine before. If you want to go on an assassination run, Blood Angels are a good army to pick. If you want to dive a character, if you have a specific character you want to dive, Blood Angels have the speed to do it a lot of the times. If your opponent does any kind of mistake to leave an opening where you might be able to land a charge.
Yeah, if they do get there, they will kill you probably. Yeah. Very few characters in the game can survive Sanguinary Guard.
Yeah. Well, and the fact that everything's got jump packs, if people make a mistake and just leave anywhere that you can land screening, you got to be very particular if you don't want a jump pack army or a jump pack army, really, to get behind around you. Like the angles, you got to be careful. The speed is not to be understated. All right, so the Sanguinary Guard charged both spawn and a unit of Rubric Marines.
Yeah, so I think we have Sanguinary Guard actually committing on the right-hand side as well.
Let's see.
Unfortunately, we don't have a camera angle that covers the side objectives right now.
Yeah, we have the glitch cam when that comes up. So I'm verifying where the Sanguinary Guard created.
Side.
Yeah. Yeah, so it must have been. Yeah. So we must have had a Sanguinary Guard crash right here. That's the only place that makes sense because
I think they're on that objective. They're just camouflaged in.
Yeah.
With the colors, they're engaging that one cast spawn there.
Oh, I thought these were incursors. I thought the things outside the solo spawn are incursors. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, we're verifying with our table boss, everybody. We know that incursors charge a single spawn.
Okay.
We know that happened. And then Sanguinary Guard made a charge after that. I'm just trying to figure out where they were.
So Sanguinary Guard on the left-hand side, but unfortunately biffing on the Rubric Marine unit a little bit. Whereas Incursors go in on the right-hand side, they're using that Blood Angels +1 wound built in for the chapter tactic to get through the high toughness value of that Chaos Bond. Incursors normally don't really come out on head of that fight, but with that +1 wound, they probably do.
Right.
They do clip that guy out, so TJ is going to be down to what looks like a 4-point primary unless there are enough rubrics to sneak the left-hand objective away from Sam. And the other thing I like about the Incursor play here is that it does, keeping those guys closer to the Thousand Suns army than the other Blood Angels units means that there are less avenues to deliver psychic powers into the more valuable Sanguinary Guard that are hiding behind them, because a lot of them that will hit the closest visible enemy will only hit those Incursors, assuming that the caster can see them.
So this is the downside of table bossing, is I actually have to, the old telegraph message, wait back and forth. All right, what I think happened, I'm clarifying with our table boss. What I think happened is that over here on the left side, where we saw 2 Chaos Bond, it sounds like there were rubrics within charge range here also, maybe behind the wall, and they got popped. That's what I think has happened, because the only thing on the other side is the incursors. So
Well,
incursors cleared out this.
We said that the invulnerable saves went hot on the Rubric Marines over on that left-hand side, and they only lost 2 models.
Yeah. Yeah, as we talked about, there's a lot of different ways that Thousand Suns are annoying to kill.
Yeah, you're not wrong. They are a tough nut to crack.
All right, so it looks like TJ is starting his turn. Oh, wait. So what is the mission on this one? Is this the hold the middle?
The bonus objective?
Yes.
So you get points for either holding the center of the table or killing a unit within 6 inches of the center of the table.
All right, so we have gotten 2 points on that every turn.
Yep.
So
he does have that. Landspeeder Storm in the center there. That's just been printing points for him so far.
That is, he's getting the mission. He's getting the Oath of Moments. He's getting Stranglehold. He is overperforming for a 55-point vehicle.
Those Landspeeder Storms, man, they're pretty badass.
Yeah, I always love just seeing. They're not a unit worth spamming, but a single one. We saw 2 yesterday. They have so much utility.
Yeah.
Especially in a army that, as you mentioned earlier this weekend, is as singular in focus as a melee army. The ability is to have, I have 55 points, I can do a couple different things, we'll figure it out later.
Right.
That's just such a nice kind of cushion to be able to fall back onto.
It's 55 points, and they probably net you like 6 VP.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty good efficiency.
All right, so the Sanguinary Guard killed 1 spawn and 2 rubrics, so we didn't kill all of either unit. I'm a little surprised we didn't pick up both of the spawn, at the very least. That was not... They don't get the invuln that the normal Thousand Suns have, right?
Not unless you cast it on them.
Right.
And you can Weaver them, which might have happened.
All right. So TJ is starting his turn, it looks like, starting to measure things out. As far as we can tell, unless there is a Rubric Marine on this left objective, he's going to be getting a... oh, no. He did get an 8. So the Rubric there must have been 3 that still consolidated in here, so we probably have touched this with OBSEC at this point. So he is getting an 8 on primary this turn. That objective was not stolen away. You know what I feel like we need to do, Trevi? I feel like we need to look at the hero in this game.
The glitch cam?
I feel like it's time to we got to check in on who is the hero so far. So, chat, it's time to look at the hero, the Land Speeder Storm.
Look at
Here
this
you
little
go.
guy. What a boss.
He has already gotten about 6 or 7 VP by himself this game.
Yeah, he scored Oath of Moment twice, and he scored 2 bonus points, so 8. Is that right?
I think the center is 1 point. It's 2 points if you kill a character, vehicle, or monster. So he's got 6, I think, so far. 4 mission and 2 Oath of Moments total by himself.
I think it's 2 for holding the middle, and then 1 for each of the other 2.
Oh, am I backwards?
Yeah.
All right. Then I don't know. Well, then this should be then that number's wrong.
He didn't run away.
But he's had 2
Once.
turns. So if he's had the middle twice, then it would be 4 points plus 2 for not falling back. So you should have 6 on Oath if it's 2 points. I think this number's wrong no matter what. I think any combination of things is incorrect.
I'm not sure. Maybe we just didn't score round 2. Oh, it scores the end of the battle round. That's why. We haven't
Oh,
gotten
that's
there.
why. Yeah.
So
that'd be right. So if it was 3 on the first turn, then if everything goes
so
the
it's going
same, then it'll be 3 again.
2 sets of holding the middle plus 2 sets of bonus points. So just a casual 8 points for 55. That's a good trade.
Yeah.
I would take that every day. In fact, I would take that just like 20 times, and I would win every game. I would immediately.
That would be. Look, if you were able to say all of my Land Speeder Storms get me 6 to 8 victory points, and then since they're dedicated transport, you just take 20 of them.
There you go.
You're gonna get 100 points every game.
Done.
It's fine.
Perfect.
Clearly, this is the right way to play 40K.
I agree. It is nice, with these Armor of Contempt changes, we are seeing kind of return to form of the old school, the old faithful Space Marine units, things like these land speeders, and these little utility units that are just so useful. They're so cool.
Yeah. I mean, they're no Cyberwolves.
They're no Cyberwolves.
But very few things are.
Yeah.
That's such
Cyberwolves might be the best unit in the game.
I don't know. Cyberwolves are absurd, and I'm not going to argue with that. But as a Tau player, I would put Crude Hounds up with them, because Crude Hounds, for their points, are pretty equally efficient at just going out and doing nonsense.
They're more expensive and just about as easy to kill, though. So,
how many? So the Crude Hounds are 8 points a model?
Yeah.
Or no, 6 points a model.
6 or 24? Yeah.
What are Cyberwolves?
15 for one.
15 for one? All right. So you had to pay a minimum of 8 or 9 extra points just to get the unit. Yeah.
They're bigger. That's nice.
I was saying, that just proves how absurd Cyberwolves are, because Crude Hounds are great for 24 points.
I agree.
24 points, they're insane, and Cyberwolves are still better.
Although Crude Hounds, do they get the pregame?
They get
movement?
a pregame move, and they get
that might
+2,
be the tiebreaker, though.
They get +2 to save in cover.
Yep.
So they have a 4-up in cover, which is nice. And they actually do. I mean, I'm sure Cyberwolf does do also, but they also slap in melee pretty well for Tau Army. I assumed a Space Wolf unit also probably slaps in melee.
Yeah.
All right, so TJ did pick up 8 on primary on his turn. He's moving out right now. We see him coming up. He has to address those 4 Sanguinary Guard. Despite us labeling them a throwaway unit now that are being targeted by ranged Schmites, you still have to do something to them. You can't just they're not a 4-man unit that you can ignore at the very least. Sam did pick up Stranglehold as the plan on turn 2. It looks like he did pick up. We'll verify where the second R&D was done. I'm going to assume the bottom right. I don't think we saw anything come in the back 2 corners yet.
Right. And it does look like TJ, with this very spread formation, really making it difficult for Sam to bring in those strategic reserves in order to, confirm his retrieve knockwind data. He might be able to get it once some of these incursors get a little bit farther forward, but the last point on retrieve knockwind data seems like it's going to be pretty hard.
Yeah.
But we'll see how this game goes. We're playing so cagey right now. We're moving through the end of turn 2, and really battle has not yet been joined truly.
I have to say, this game thus far, not fitting of Korn's table.
I know. Korn is upset.
Yeah. Korn wants more people to come hang out with the Landspeeder Storm in the middle of the table.
Landspeeder Storms are one of Korn's favored sons.
Yeah.
I don't know if you knew that.
I have a feeling this clearly this is not our Dark Angels and Space Wolves game where everybody died on turn 2.
Right.
But I have a feeling at the turn the players decide they're going to kill stuff, a lot of things are going to die in this game.
Yep.
We are not going to leave this game without seeing murder. Murder is coming. Only the good kind, though, not bad murder. Good murder. Positive murder.
Yeah.
All right, so TJ has
Good wholesome messaging here from
Yeah.
Motor City Mayhem.
Yeah. Murder is good when you do it correctly. That's
Yeah,
what we're saying.
of course.
Yeah, I don't see. I can't say it. TJ has declared that he's not going to fall back with the rubrics, as he is going. His plan is to psychic them out of the Sanguinary Guard. So that may mean murdering the Sanguinary Guard with mind bullets. There may be some tricks to. Do they have a spell? I don't remember because I was dealing with something while you were going over the list. Is this the list with a spell to like redeploy in the middle of the turn?
Yep.
Okay. So you may just have picked them up and moved them in the middle of the turn and not have to fall them back because when you do it that way, you can still shoot and do all the things you would normally do.
Right.
So.
Yeah, they are.
I used to get to do that as a Blades player.
But yeah, the old Wings of Fire.
Yeah.
What a drug that was. Oh my god.
Oh man. I mean, that's. I genuinely feel that change. Not even that the change is like good or bad. Like there's plenty of other good stuff in the book. That change made so many Blood Angels players quit when the Codex came out because they couldn't do that anymore, and that was the only thing they understood how to do. I do yearn for those yesteryears at the very least.
Yep. So it looks like the Sanguinary Guard had actually wrapped the Rubric Marine Squad, is what happens over on the left-hand side there. And we saw TJ use a desperate breakout to get those guys out of the way, just so we're not entirely relying on the Psychic phase to remove that Sanguinary Guard squad. So that meant that there was one Rubric Marine still standing on the objective, which meant that Sam was not able to cut TJ down to a 4-point primary. He's still sitting there at a nice, juicy 8. Although, again, TJ missing out hard on the bonus points. We'll use the combo again to use Cabal points and make that Psychic Interrogation undeniable.
Such a powerful combination.
Yeah. Definitely, I think makes Thousand Suns feel very thematic in how they operate in the game because all they want to do is be doing weird and hokey rituals in the middle of the table.
Well, it's so powerful in our. We were talking about the meta all weekend too. The meta is full of psychers right now. Best Army's got a bunch of psychers, and the ability to say, I could pick psychic secondaries and not care what you're playing because I can always make sure my secondary is uncounterable. That's just so powerful right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Aramon has smited the Sanguinary Guard that were near the rope. Looks like he picked up 2 of them.
Yeah, I think not surprising to anyone that Sanguinary Guard unit getting picked up pretty quickly on the left-hand side.
Not surprising, but still sad.
Yeah, it is still very sad. The question I think is going to be, what's going to deal with these incursors on the right-hand side? It looks to me like there might be a Scarab Occult unit that is close enough to charge them.
Yeah, I'll verify that
the
Scarabs are rubrics.
Matthew Nurgle in chat, what's up, dude? How's it going? Thanks for joining us. Thanks, everyone, for taking time out of their busy Saturday mornings to come hang out with us here, the Motor City Mayhem 2022.
Nurgle Matt, the patron saint of Twitch subscribers. I think all 40K channels.
Absolutely. He's the chaos god of Twitch 40K.
All right, so we've also teleported 9 inches away to try to finish off that Sanguinary Guard unit in shooting.
Okay. Yep. There's the facade. Is that with a Scarab Occult unit popping out there, looks like?
Based on the size, I would have to think so. It doesn't look like Scarab bases. So, our table boss reporting that TJ's plan is for Chaos Spawn to charge the Incursors, not Scarab Occult Terminators. Because I'm confident this unit in the back is Scarab Occult Terminators.
Interesting. So it sounds like TJ may be banking some CP to buff the attacks on the spawn there in order to confirm the kill on the Incursors. Because if we don't get any obstacle there, the Chaos Spawn do actually have to remove that unit in order to take that objective away.
So these are our 2 big meaty units right now. These are the 2 Scarab Occult Terminators. One just teleported over here to definitely get in a better position. They're going to move much faster this way than any other way across the table. Moved up here, pick up the secondary guard while still maintaining relative safety, as most of the Blue Angels players are down the bottom right corner. Not going to be able to threaten this at all. Definitely not going to be able to threaten the Terminators in the back. So TJ is being very protective of his two big, powerful units. He knows what his army is built around, and he's not going to expose this unnecessarily.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And I do like to see this KG play from both these players. I think the impetus, especially in a centralized mission like this, could very well be to just run everything to the middle. And that would, I think, probably be incorrect for both armies.
Yeah.
Both of them do have the capacity to kill each other if they get to grips too early. In a protracted game like this, I think Thousand Suns, they will dominate the late game. And if they can kill enough of the Blood Angels units at range, they can then use their teleportation to claim the objectives that the Blood Angels are no longer on. But that said, that's very difficult to do to confirm.
So I feel like, interestingly enough, I feel like TJ is in the driver's seat here.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think if TJ allows the Oath of Moments to max, if he never challenges it, let's assume both players do everything they want to do. So let's assume that both players max Stranglehold. Let's assume that we max Psychic Interrogation cap at 12, or does it go all the way to 15?
Goes all the way to 15.
All right, so he can get to 15.
every turn.
Wrath of Magnus can also go to 15.
Yep.
Right? So we got TJ can get 45 on secondary. Our Blood Angels player can only get 42 because they took R&D.
Yep.
So it doesn't matter if we ever challenge the middle. If you get 15 on that, if both players do everything they want, TJ is ahead by 3.
Mm-hmm.
TJ is going second. TJ does not have to contest for any 12s at any point because he's going to get we can assume he will get 12 points on the last turn.
Yep.
Which means if Sam doesn't find a way to, as I talked about yesterday, he's got to break serve somehow. He's got to find a way to disrupt something TJ wants to do, because if Sam doesn't, TJ is absolutely just going to get 100 points no matter what.
Yep.
Sam cannot get 100. It's mathematically impossible for Sam to get 100 points. So Sam has to find a way here to stop at least 3 points, if not 7, to just be tied.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a really good call out, and I definitely think that TJ can just plan to, assuming that he assumes that he's going to max primary. That's basically, I think, the big out for Blood Angels is if they can push hard enough forward to force a couple 4-point turns on TJ, they could recover that lead pretty quickly by knocking him down below that max 45. But I do think that the other thing that Sam may not have taken into account when he formulated his game plan, and what TJ may be banking on, is that Thousand Suns do have an intercept. So if we're hoping that the Voidsman can come in, the Voidsman at Arms can come in and complete a retrieve Nakbun data in order to max out that 12-point secondary. If that unit gets shot in the reinforcement step and dies, or at least gets knocked down to where it's unlikely for them to complete the action, that could almost spell the end of the game right there, because suddenly you're cut down from a 97 to a 93, and assuming TJ is able to max out his secondaries, it's very difficult to make up that loss.
Which is, I enjoy watching KG games. They're my favorite way to play 40Ks, when both players are being KG and nobody's getting tabled, everyone's getting to do stuff. Decisions are very, very important at that point. But if you play KG for 5 turns means you lose by 3, then you shouldn't be playing KG.
Right.
That's and that sounds. I'm not trying to be silly and oversimplify it, but like, I do think that sometimes players don't recognize that.
Mm-hmm.
They look at, my stuff's not dying, so I must be doing well. That your stuff not dying doesn't necessarily mean you have a way to win the game on the table.
Right.
And we have to. Sam needs to be able to identify at some point he has to be aggressive. He cannot win this game if he's never aggressive on any turn.
Yep.
It's just not. That doesn't exist. We did have Psychic Phase continue. We had Firestorm on the Incursors, dealing 5 mortals to the Incursors, and then we did our favorite play we talked about: move forward, do good stuff, and then run away. We warp time backwards after we did a bunch of mortal damage. All right, so the Occult Terminators have picked up, as we expected, the single Sanguinary Guard that had remained on that objective.
Seems like gratuitous overkill there. 10 Scarab Occult Terminators.
They really did not want him to hold that objective.
You're like, sir, we're going to need you to leave.
All right, so, but again, we're seeing TJ does not need to go on that objective. That objective does not matter to him right now. What matters is not letting the Blendulous player have it, but he doesn't have to take it.
Yep.
So those Terminators are in prime position to make sure nothing survives on that objective for an entire turn. They can move up, make sure all 10 can shoot next turn, but they don't need to charge anything on it if they don't want to. There's 7 Sanguinary Guard in that Ruin, but then I don't think there's anything else on that side of the table besides the Incursors and the Ingressors that are back at the bottom of the screen. So you could just keep feeding things out there, but they're just going to keep dying every turn to those Terminators. Which, again, we've got to find a way to go across the other side of the table and take some points away somehow. I also don't love the way this is played out for what the Blendulous need to do attacking TJ. TJ very clearly has put both his Terminators in opposite directions. Blendulous really love when everything can go in the same direction. And we can dogpile on things and just gratuitously overkill a certain area of the table. TJ has said, if you want to kill Terminators, it's fine, but you're going to have to send everything in your army after 10 of them. There's no way you're going to kill the other 10 at the same time.
Yep. Yeah, very much like I think the Space Wolves that we saw yesterday, where they would like nothing more than to have one big target to sink their teeth into, a big knot of enemies that are going to put themselves into onto an objective and force the fight. And that's not what Thousand Suns do. They do put those Terminator bricks into the center objective, but only when they can be sure that those bricks will survive, because that's where the majority of both the resilience and damage output of the Thousand Suns army comes out of, is those 2 units. If you lose them too early doing something dumb, then you probably lose the game. But if you can use them to attrition out to the enemy assets that are going to deal with you, then you're good to go.
Yeah. So TJ's 2 spawn did charge the 3 remaining Incursors. Artio Bless says they buffed the spawn, so I imagine that's the spawn ability to get random melee buffs through the stratagem. I think it's the old rolling the demon table or whatever it is they still have. But it doesn't look like they did anything, because we just saw the Incursors pile in, which probably means they didn't die. Which is problematic, because now Blendulous are going to get a 12.
Yeah. And I wonder if we saw a transhuman pop there, maybe on those Incursors to keep them going. Looks like the command points have been depreciated, so that might have been the call. I think that's a very good use of a defensive stratagem there, because the point swing is so great if you're able to keep that unit alive. And so just forcing your opponent, just tell them, show me the dice, let's do it.
Yeah.
You got a bunch of attacks, you're a Chaos Spawn, maybe you're high AP, but if you don't roll 4 ups, you can't kill me, and I'm going to force you to roll all 4 ups.
This is not what we were saying that the Blendulous player needed to do, but this kind of happenstance effectively recreates that same thing, because now we've looked at an 8-point swing. Blendulous player is going to go to 12 from an 8, and automatically right now, if the Blendulous player, as long as it doesn't somehow lose all 3 of those Incursors, we're going to hold TJ to a 4.
Yeah.
Because he's not holding the objective on the left side either. So that is now an automatic 8-point swing, and we said the discrepancy we thought we saw on the scoreboard was a 7-point differential. We've now canceled that out. So now there's going to have to be a little bit of looking for an opportunity to recover some points on TJ's part as well, to kind of reestablish that safety net that he had.
Yeah, not to mention the fact, too, that it does mean that Incursor unit not only is going to score automatically at the start of the turn, but also doesn't need to, probably needs to move so it doesn't get killed by spawn the second round of combat, but doesn't need to go anywhere in order to confirm Stranglehold for Sam.
I would probably, I don't know what his plans are for the things in the building, but I would probably just fall it back, just so I guarantee it doesn't accidentally die somehow to spawn in the fight phase.
Yeah, you may just fall it back and pass turn, and leave that Chaos Spawn there, allow it to attack again. And just say go, so you don't have to commit any more of your other units in order to score that objective.
So we did pop Transhuman, but apparently it's a combination of a pure whiff and Transhuman.
Yeah, those Chaos Spawn do get to, with the Fated Mutation Stratagem, they get +1 attack. They do have a random number of attacks, though, so they could roll low on their attack volume, but that +1 helps shore up the weakness a little bit. And then they get to choose the mutation that they receive. One of which I think makes them AP4, which means they would almost entirely punch through the Incursor armor, which would be very helpful.
So we're seeing, it looks like our Blendulous player is kind of taking stock of what they want to do right now, realizing that swing was huge. So let's see, what does our Chaos Spawn do here?
Yeah, so they can either switch to AP4, get an additional D3 attacks, or reroll wounds. But you do you select the result when they're selected to fight, meaning that ability is going to resolve before your targeting step, and your targeting step is when transhuman happens.
Right.
So you can't, for example, pick reroll wounds if your opponent has transhuman because you don't know whether or not they're transhuman yet. Sam may have simply not transhumaned if they had reroll wounds because the transhuman effect would not have been that big of a deal. But if you do the extra attacks or you do the AP4, then that transhuman's looking pretty solid.
Yeah. So currently, our table system players are discussing where they believe things are screened out, making sure that there's no surprises. Both players are being on the same page. As we know, those Voidsman arms have to come in this turn. He wants them to come in and pick up that Knockfin data.
Yeah.
So there's verifying before there's any arguments. Where could these things actually land? Is there a spot they can land where I want them to?
Yeah, and TJ's sitting on 4 CP right now. I can't imagine that there is a spot that he's given Sam where that unit can come in a relevant position and doesn't get vaporized by an intercept. Now, interestingly, Lyle, we're only an hour 20 minutes into this round. We already have our first results of the undefeated bracket, and I have some bad news for everyone at home.
Oh, don't tell me.
Sam Dayton, our Spaceless player from yesterday, unfortunately going down a very close 86-97 to Joshua Manish's Tyranids.
That is respectably close, though.
It's very close.
Yeah. For Space Wolves, not an army typically thought of as competing with Tyranids and the sheer power they bring to the table in the current
Hounds
meta.
of Mordecai, though.
But they that is losing to what we all agree is the best army in the meta right now. That is not a big loss.
Yeah.
That is incredibly respectable. That means that was absolutely a game I would have loved to watch.
Super duper close. It was versus a double Harpy Tyranid build, which I think is especially difficult for an all melee Space Wolves army to contend with because there's very little jump infantry. I think none actually in Samuel's Space Wolf
we saw yesterday. Yeah.
So he has no way to deal with those Harpies. The Harpies just get to run riot over his army. They don't even need to encircle.
Wait, but he has the flamers.
Oh, you're right. He does have flamethrowers. He has several flamethrowers. How could I have forgotten?
Yeah, I mean they were so important yesterday with what we saw.
Yeah, definitely super impactful to the game. That was against 2+ saves though.
Yeah, I'm convinced there are games where the flamers matter. Yesterday just wasn't that one.
Yeah. Interestingly, on our table 2, we have Ben Sherwin versus Hudi Amidvar, and that's actually an Azure Yanni mirror match. So that is an Ulthway versus Hail of Doom matchup. Should be interesting to see which of the two most played Azure Yanni sub-factions ends up coming out on top.
We have I know we have over on table 4 right now. We have Harlequins versus Tau.
Yep. So that's Brenton Weiss versus Jared Vale.
Yep. And then
that
did you already talk about our table 1 match? Or I'm sorry, our other stream match. I apologize.
Yeah. So our other stream match over on War Games Live is Nick Nanavati playing Hail of Doom versus. Just grab his opponent's name here. If I can find it.
Wait, I've got it right here somewhere. Or it should be here. I have the entire scoreboard up here. Nick is playing Charlie Andre.
Charlie Andre playing Tyranids. So I think a matchup that we may be seeing a lot more as we move further through day 2 of the GT.
Now, what I am excited about is that as of next round, I believe all of our undefeated players will be up here with us, and we can have much more quick information on what's happening in these matches. We can give you guys updates from the floor.
Perfect.
A little bit harder. If you guys haven't seen our overhead shot, we are currently in the VIP balcony.
Yes.
Although, to be fair, any place that we are is the VIP location. So, we are currently... Oh, man, I just realized I'm not wearing my coat, Trevi. I'm letting you down.
I know.
Now,
okay.
I'm not a VIP. I'm just a P at this point.
I'm bringing dapper enough for the both of us, okay?
But it makes it slightly harder for us to check out what's going on the lower floor because we can't just go up and down the stairs during the stream. Yep. So next round, we'll have a much better idea of giving you live updates from all of our undefeated tables. All right. Speaking of undefeated tables, though, let's go back and talk about this one. So the Blinders brought in the Voidsman in the corner near TJ's dice tray for R&D. But as you talked about, that intercept from the Thousand Suns, planning to take that problem away before it happens. So the Sanguinary Guard with the Axe unit has now deployed into the middle to go kill those 2 spawn. Notably, it looks like, I mean, they are trying to stay with the GW ruin, that clear plexiglass base between them and the Terminators, but you have to imagine at least some number of the Terminators are going to be able to walk forward, touch that, although they can't see through the wall because we're saying the walls are all opaque. So they're not going to be able to get shot easily, short of TJ, I guess, could do his spell to redeploy all those Terminators and move them to the right and just shoot down the side of the building. So we'll have to see what happens there. The Death Company are also coming up to charge. We see them on the left side. Let's go to our Telestrator. So we have Death Company have moved up here. They may be in position. There's rubrics in here, which they can get to. They're probably not going to be able to get to the Terminators on the side from that position. That would be a very long charge for them to hit. Our Sanguinary Guard have moved up into here, and they are working on these 2 spawn also. So we had postulated that potentially these incursions would fall back. Instead, we're just going to take this objective and not worry about it.
Yeah, that move is so interesting to me because, like we said, the lines of sight are very difficult for this Scarecrow Terminator unit to get onto, get shots on target on that Sanguinary Guard squad. But we have Sorcerer's Facade in the chamber here. So I think there's a universe where that unit goes in, they kill the spawn, and then the Scarecrow Terminator unit teleports all the way around to the side of the table. Yeah, right there where you're circling. And just vaporizes them.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
That would be such a blow to Sam's ability to deal with those Scarab Terminator units, because the Sanguinary Guard are, they're his combat element. That's what he needs in order to knock those guys out.
Now, if we're trying to predict what we think might happen the next turn or so from these positionings, if that happens, these Sanguinary Guard die, there is another unit of 7 Sanguinary Guard right here with the swords, which are the ones you would want into the Terminators, as those are the higher AP. They could then come out potentially and countercharge this after they get shot. That's a lot of postulation, but it could be the play that he's hoping to set up for. Is we have now, to go back to our tiered terms, maybe Sanguinary Guards are hopefully a little bit of a distraction Karn effects, bait, trying to move those Terminators into position where he could actually go after them. I am not confident, as a Blenders player, that one single unit of 7 Sanguinary Guard is going to pick up 10 Scarab Occult Terminators, but it'll hurt at the very least. It's absolutely going to hurt.
We did have a drone flying over there momentarily, just flew by us, so if there was some background noise in the chat, I apologize. Yep, so it looks like the Voidsmen have come in on that far right-hand side and been intercepted, and I think have died.
Was the old meme? I'm here, and I'm gone.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah, I mean that is expensive. 2 CP to kill 40 points of Voidsman is not the trade you want to be making, but I mean that might seal Sam to a 4, maybe an 8 on retrieve knockwind data, but it seems like
our knockwind data is now we need to kill everything and then do it later.
Right. We'll get it with the Sanguinary Guard, once they're standing upon the corpses of their foes.
Because oddly enough, this almost never comes up, but it is worth noting. Even if the Death Company kill the rubrics and want to jump past them and do knockman next turn, Death Company can't. They're just not allowed to. Death Company, for those of you who don't know Blenders lore, Death Company are permanently insane. They all believe that Horus is stabbing them in the chest as they live the death of Sanguinius. So they're a little preoccupied with that, and they can't do actions.
Mm-hmm.
So they, even though they can move 12 inches and you would think they would be able to get in position to do knockman, they're just not allowed to. So the only units they can do are now all trapped basically in the bottom right corner.
Yep.
Nobody else is getting across the table to do knockman.
Yep.
All right, so Sanguinary Guard that moved up also were able to shoot, get some lines of sight on the cultists and kill 8 of them. Again, they're, as many people's guns are, perfectly suited to kill cultists. Very good at specifically killing cultists.
Yeah. But you have to. You got to get rid of those guys because, I mean, as we've been seeing, kind of the story of this game is that TJ has been able to put kind of undue pressure on Sam's army with his random utility units because Sam doesn't have a way to kill them efficiently at long range. So being able to get rid of those cultists in the shooting phase here, so there's just a unit you don't have to deal with, moving in and move blocking you and potentially taking the objective out from behind you. It's so important.
All right.
Now,
So
we do have one. There is one Eradicator squad in this Blood Angels.
yeah, I'm not even sure. I feel like they're this bigger unit in the back of this ruin, but I'm gonna ask our table boss.
I think maybe we're worried about an Empiric guidance unit of Scarab Cult Terminators knocking those guys out if they expose themselves. But I would have loved to have seen a spawn get killed by Eradicators rather than Sanguinary Guard at least some point in this game. And so far, that's not happening.
Like I really feel like we could have had a position on an earlier turn where if the Eradicators had come up here and just touched this and be able to see both objectives really easily, that's such an efficient way to pick up the single spawn over here or the two spawn on that side and not expose any of your important units.
Yeah, it's a really defensive position for them. They're protected by two sets of obscuring terrain. It's very difficult to get back at them, and like you said, they can threaten wherever they need to on the table.
Because even if they go here, this whole thing is still obscuring. Even if they touch this to see through, you're only going to be able to shoot them really if you're here.
Yeah.
Like you could, because this corner is going to block obscuring also. So you're really going to have to be in this left side or right side of the table, which it has been obvious that is not where TJ wanted to put his Terminators to start the game.
Yep. So it does look like we do have a Sanguinary Guard charge on the Terminators on the left-hand side there. Oh, a Death Company charge.
They hit a 12. They got to the Terminators. All right.
God. All right. Well, now we're cooking with gas. Let's see if those Thunderhammers can do some work. Although I believe we do have that Terminator unit buffed up to the 9s.
Yeah. I'm just going to assume that we've put the Death Company in. Oh, no, it's turn 3. We don't even have to put them in Assault Doctrine. They're in Assault Doctrine.
Yep.
I would say, I don't feel like we would need to use a strat to put Sanguinary Guard in Assault Doctrine to kill Chaos Spawn. But we're in Assault Doctrine now, so it just doesn't matter. Yep. So Blood Angels in Assault Doctrine, that's their Super Doctrine. They get, every model gets +1 attack, in addition to their already +1 to wound. So Death Company, who already have an insane number of attacks, become literal walking blenders. The Chain Swords, obviously only Strength 4, but in the Terminators, you're still wounding on 3s. You're going to be AP2 with the Chain Swords at that point. So you're going to end up, they're still getting a 2-up save, Armor Content plus All is Dust. So that's not a matter, but it's still a ton of attacks. Your opponent sometimes rolls ones.
Right.
Maybe you can pick up a single Terminator that way. The Thunderhammers are becoming actual AP3 now. Every single failed save on a Thunderhammer is going to just pick up a Terminator. Death Company get an additional attack being Death Company. They get an additional attack for being Space Marine. And now they're getting additional attack for being a Blood Angel. So you end up with like 6 Thunderhammer attacks each. 18 Thunderhammer attacks from 3 guys. Even though you're hitting on 4s, that's just a lot of dice.
Yep. So here comes the Death Company attack. Let's see what we get. If we can land a knockout hit on this unit of Scarab Cults here,
that would be huge.
That'd be such a big deal. Yeah. Then losing the Sanguinary Guard as we had to earlier, and potentially losing this other unit of Sanguinary Guard would be the blow would be much less bad.
All right. Now we have buffed all the Sanguinary or all of the Terminators though, so I don't know if we roll the Thunderhammer or the Chain Swords first. I'm hoping that was Chain Swords because if you only kill one with the Thunderhammers, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, it is. It's Glamour Weaver, so they're into a 4+ invulnerable save, which I don't think will help them because I think they're on a 4+ either way.
Yeah.
And they are -1 to be hit, which again against Thunderhammers also doesn't help you very much. So I actually don't think that those buffs really matter.
It would have to be, that first half had to be the Chain Swords because there's no way to do 1 damage to a Terminator with a Thunderhammer.
Right.
So.
Yeah, as we discussed, the -1 damage stratagem is shooting only.
All right. Waiting on confirmation from our table boss.
Let's see what we get here. The suspense is killing me right now.
2. I think we may have killed 2 total. I feel like, yeah, I think that was 2 Terminators total.
Oh no, that wasn't what they. That's not what we were hoping for. We were getting all excited for big swing.
Oh, that's so annoying. So not only was that they killed 2 with all their attacks, that also included Hammer of Wrath doing mortals. They still only picked up 2 Terminators. That is absolutely not what they needed, unfortunately.
Unfortunate. That is cute, trying to use the Hammer of Wrath.
Hammer of Wrath is not bad.
Yeah.
You just get 4-ups for mortals from 5 guys. There's a non-0% chance you just pick up a single Terminator. That's totally fine. It's like, what, 40% to kill a Terminator with mortals that way? All right, so now the intercessors are going into the rubric. So I think there was still, it's hard to say because purple and red are blending into our objectives, but there was a rubric right here the intercessors are killing. So that's worth pointing out is that TJ was not in a position to get a 4 like we thought. He would have gotten an 8. They had to come out and take this rubric away to hold him to a 4. But I think that was an important part of the plan. Is TJ needed to be held to a 4 this turn for any of this to work. The other nice thing is I don't actually know. Are the Kopeshes good into power armor on the Terminators?
Yeah, so I believe that they are AP2 2 damage. Double check here on the exact profile.
So the Incursors killed 1 rubric. It sounds like there might be another one there, but we've out-obsected the rubric, so it doesn't matter. So that objective has been taken. The Chaos Spawn, predictably, did not survive 7 Sanguinary Guard.
Excuse me, AP3 2 damage. So
those are very good at killing Death
very
Company.
Good. Very good at the Space Marines. Puts them on a 5+ save after that Armor of Contempt. Even puts Sanguinary Guard onto a 4+.
If he can get all 10 into the Death Company, I wouldn't bother, I don't think. But Death Company do have a strat to get a 5-up Feel No Pain for a turn instead of a 6-up Feel No Pain, which can make 2 damage weapons a little annoying at picking up 2 wound models the way they want to. But I'm relatively confident he's going to get all 10 guys into this, so it probably just doesn't matter. Rage-tastic, I understand your comment. However, there are 2 table judges at the table, so I'm not too worried about it. We have a roving table judge, there's a table boss, and a reporter at that table. So I think it's okay. Also, TJ has been wearing a body cam all weekend. He's not wearing it while he's on stream, but he has been wearing a body cam for all of his games this weekend. All right, so the Occult are punching the Death Company back now. And I feel reasonably confident predicting this will hurt.
Yep. But that's okay. Death Company are disposable. We don't feel too bad about them. It's the Sanguinary Guard.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things like you want Death Company are cool and you want to keep them on the table, but they're literally there to die. They're supposed to die. And as a Blood Angels player, I would feel like I was doing them a disservice if I wasn't giving them that opportunity. Because that's literally what they want to do is die.
Yeah, you should lose victory points if you have Death Company alive at the end of the game.
Or unless your opponent's tabled. If you table them, then they just didn't. They were too good at their job. They didn't get the table, and you just put them back in stasis and save for the next battle.
Nope, they had to do the tabling. Mutual annihilation.
All right. Well, in this case, it doesn't matter because they all died.
We've done it. Victory achieved.
They have served their purpose. So to point out, these Incursors, assuming that TJ once again either desperate breakouts or teleports that rubric away, these Incursors are absolutely going to get shot to death by these Terminators.
Yep.
They are not going to withstand the blistering firepower that they can lay to bear. Bring to bear? Lay to bear? I'm not sure. One of those. Bears are involved somehow.
Oh, yeah. I feel that in my bones.
Yeah.
It's definitely also a commentary on my life, if you know what I mean. So we are down 1 Sanguinary Guard squad. We're down 1 Death Company squad. And we have another Sanguinary Guard squad, which did kill some Chaos Spawn, but is way out in the open here. How are we feeling for Sam in terms of, his ability to close out the game in the late game here?
I just wanted to point out, Trevi, though, our hero's still alive.
I mean, there's like a non-zero chance that this Land Speeder Storm single-handedly wins the game, right?
I want to laugh about that, but it's really happening.
Literally, might happen.
It's now going to get up to, we're now in double digits amount of points that this model is single-handedly scoring.
And we can't forget that it has in the bank that 16-inch move plus disembark plus move into a retrieve Knockmoon data for the
that is where the Knockmoon data can still come from. Is there are still 5 guys inside of that?
Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, no longer troops. Much to the chagrin of most Space Marine players who love to play 30 of them in the past for very cheap. So there is a 17% chance that they'd go for Knockman that fails.
Yeah.
So can't discount that. You don't want to put the game in a position where you need to sort of make that die roll.
Would be very unfortunate. But if that gets Sam up to the 8 points he needs, and he's able to max out his other secondaries, he's not in too bad shape, assuming he can continue this sort of rate of primary objective scoring.
All right, and we see on TJ's turn exactly what we predicted, Trevi. The Terminators have all teleported from here
There they
right
go.
over here. Now, I love what TJ has done. I kind of drew the circles like, oh, maybe they'll come up here in case they have to charge or something. He's like, no, we are going to stay as far away. We are staying as far away from these Sanguinary Guard down here punching me back as possible.
Yeah,
You're going to have to hit an 8 or 9 inch charge to get there from this position.
TJ did see the Death Company make a 12-inch charge. He knows it's in Sam's wheelhouse to make that happen.
Blade Angels do get +1 to charge, so you think an 8 is, on average more defensible for the defendee surviving. It's still a 50-50 for a Blade Angels player to hit an 8 inch charge.
Yep.
And it does add up over the course of the game. When you're just YOLOing charges, you do start hitting occasionally much bigger ones than your opponent expects.
Absolutely. But the real question here now is how much damage those guys do to the Sanguinary Guard. If they're able to clip out that unit, that's a lot of losses for Sam.
Yeah. Now, do the Terminators have any way to ignore cover at all?
That's a good question.
There is a possibility that we were able to consolidate in such a way that some of these Sanguinary Guard might be touching the base of this terrain, which would give some of them cover, which would functionally give them a 0-up armor save to start. So if we can ignore cover, plus we said there is a lot of AP that they can put into there, that's going to make this a lot easier. If they get to start with a 0-up, there is a non-0% chance we could survive this with a couple models, perhaps.
Yep. So I don't believe that there's anything in the list that ignores cover.
Okay.
It would just be dense from the orrery, but that's
And
a matter.
there's no, I can't tell for sure that any of the Sanguinary Guard are touching terrain, and if they are, there's not all of them for sure. So, but it could help soak a couple shots that just gives you 1 or 2 models left.
Yep, for sure.
1 or 2 Sanguinary Guard can start diving characters from that position very easily.
And to be honest, I think trying to maximize your unit survivability that way is one of the. No! Like, contestation within your objectives? Not like this.
TJ is no longer going to allow the hero to continue on unmolested.
The BM here. 1 Scarab Occults. Or,
I think it's a Rubric. Yeah.
Rubric Marine, excuse me.
But the Rubric has OBSEC, so we are no longer farming points in the middle of the table. I'm curious if there was ever any consideration to move our Incursor right here. We could have just put a touch on that with some OBSEC. That doesn't mean TJ couldn't have taken it away. He puts 3 OBSEC on there. He still gets his whatever. But as close as that is, I understand he didn't want it to be visible from that position, but we had to assume at some point OBSEC was going to contest this objective. We could have. Maybe he just wants to be able to contest it back to get Stranglehold next turn. Maybe he's not worried about getting a 12 again.
Yep.
He's got usually 1 12 is pretty good if you get 4 8s and a 12. So now that he's got a 12, maybe he doesn't feel like he needs to get another 12 at the beginning of his next turn. He just wants to be able to take it back with Stranglehold.
Yeah, I do wonder, maybe if Sam would have done that if he had more CP available in order to defend that unit. But because there are going to be, I think, given how defensively Sam has been playing, there are going to be Thousand Suns guns that remain silent throughout the turn. Giving TJ more things to shoot at isn't really going to help too much. There's a bunch of extra Rubric Marines that can pop out and take a bunch of Inferno bolt gun shots at those guys at AP2 and potentially knock a couple models out of that unit.
All right, so TJ is currently seeing if he has anywhere that he can easily get a Psychic Interrogation off. Figuring out where he needs to put a character to get Psychic Interrogation. Remember, all of the Blade Angels characters are not showing up on my screen right now. There we go. All the Blade Angels characters are down here. So you just got to make sure he can get a Psychic Interrogation in position to that ruin. But we do see, as we're pointing out, Sam has jumped ahead to a reasonable lead, 18 points or so. Holding that 8-point swing was huge. We talked about last turn.
Absolutely.
We thought that turn was going to end up 8-8 and instead 12-4. We knew we had already identified there was a 7-point discrepancy if the game continued the pace it was going. If everything maxed out from this point forward, Sam would now be ahead by 1 point. So TJ's got to find a position to at least take 1 point away just to get that tie. Probably going to be 3 points. Most of the things in the game are count 2s or 3s or whatever. But TJ is now looking for opportunity. He needs to recover some of those points that were stolen from him to make this an automatic victory once again.
Yep. Yeah, we may see the dynamic taking shape here where Sam is basically just trading army for primary objective score. But we are bottom turn 3. He only has to do it for 2 more turns. But right now it looks like he's being pretty heavily contested. He may lose the left-hand objective, but we just don't know yet. The right-hand objective also looks a little bit dicey. He has lost the center. So he might be down to a 4 this turn, which would be pretty brutal.
All right, these look like the cultists on the left side are about to be moved. There was a cultist that was just picked up off the table a moment ago. They had forgotten to roll morale, and so they just picked that cultist up saying it failed. It's whatever.
Makes sense.
Cultist doesn't need to be back there anymore, as we have already killed the Voidsman at arms.
Yep.
So
No
that
more reserves.
there's no screening that we're worried. Well, I mean, that's not fair. You could need to screen again for a Blendulous player, but you'll get a turn to be ready for that.
If we Wings of Fire,
Yeah.
trying to redeploy.
I have literally never seen anybody do that since they changed how it worked.
Yep.
I'm sure I'm sure I can think of a situation where it'd be good, but it is not a common occurrence anymore. Not like it used to be. I think I literally used to do it every turn. It could pay off it could be a way to finish maxing R&D. You have to have a very good predictive turn 4 of like, I understand what's going to happen on this next turn, what TJ has to do, what he can do, and you could maybe launch a unit of Sanguinary Guard to the back, but the idea of just taking a turn off with Sanguinary Guard from this position where things are moving towards the middle table just seems so weird. It's hard to believe that the points you would gain from that successfully being pulled off with R&D, which isn't even a guarantee, would make up for whatever points you would lose by taking the Sanguinary Guard off for a turn.
Yep. Yeah, 100% agree with that. That's always the awkward part about those style of one-turn stratagems is even after they come back in, you're then also gambling for a big charge. Once you're out of reserve.
Yeah, and unfortunately, none of the ways to get an even easier charge in the Bludgeon's list are in here. There are ways to get +2 to your charge, things like that.
Yep.
None of that's in this list right now.
Yeah, no chaplains today for Blood Angels. A little bit surprising.
That's a little. Blood Angels, I personally feel, have the best bike chaplain in the game out of all the chapters, and there's some crazy bike chaplains out there. But the bike chaplain can do what this chapter master is doing. It's very common to give it 2 warlord traits. Blood Angels have a specific warlord trait that you can turn into a relic, so you end up giving the bike chaplain 2 relics, which you can make him functionally unkillable. You can end up with him having a 2-up armor, Armor of Indominus for a 3-up invuln once a game, and you can also give him a 5-up Feel No Pain. He's already T5 with 8 wounds. He just becomes, against most things that aren't just able to dedicate multiple things at him simultaneously, he just doesn't die.
Yep.
He can just run around and harass things and do whatever he wants. You give him the buff, or give him the prayer where he can buff himself when he needs to go be a boss on his own, or you can, my favorite personally is +2 to charge, +3 to pile-ins and consolidates. When you get to pile in 6 inches and then consolidate 6 inches afterwards, you move really far. That's really absurd. It makes it almost impossible for you to not get everything in your army into an engagement range when you pile in, and it's so easy to start tagging things afterwards at that point. I really just love the utility of that speed, as we talked about yesterday, how important speed is in 40K. That's kind of the theme of this list that I don't like. I don't feel like there's as much speed as could be jammed into it if you wanted to.
So
but it's working for him. So.
We've towed something here on the right-hand objective.
All right, so they're still. All right, let me see what our table boss says. So you're moving into the psychic phase. Our table boss will tell us what went up onto that objective. I do like, while we're waiting, so there's rubrics that went over there also.
Okay, so we do have objective secured, towing on that objective, but we don't know where the Rights of War chapter master is right now, do we?
He's here somewhere.
He's in there? Okay.
He's in that ruin.
So he may be donating objective secured to the Sanguinary Guard themselves.
Yeah.
So I think we're hoping on TJ's side to kill enough Sanguinary Guard with the Scarab Cult shot that those remaining rubrics can take that objective.
What I do love, I want to point this out over here. We said that the Terminators didn't need to charge anything to kill it. They can kill these incursors and shooting if they want to without any trouble. I love the idea of setting this up to just move them onto here, because once they're on this objective, they are not leaving.
Yep.
There's nothing currently on the table that would allow them to be shifted off of this objective. This objective will be TJ's for the rest of the game once they get on top of
Yeah.
that.
And
That's big.
That's the games that you're always trying to create with as a Thousand Suns player. Is you want to shave off enough of your opponent's army that they can no longer deal with the Scarab Cult bricks. The Scarab Cult bricks then dominate the primary in the late game. And so, as we've been talking about, we are at an 18-point deficit for TJ Lanigan here. That's essentially how Thousand Suns operate a lot of times. They're so slow and they're so deliberate, I'll say, slow and purposeful maybe, that they can't quite make it to all the objectives early, so they force the opponent to take the objectives from them, kill all their stuff, and once they're out of stuff, the game is theirs.
So Aramon did 6 mortals to the intercessors, which that hurt. But that's just Aramon doing Aramon things. We're now buffing up the occult terminators. I would assume he's buffing the ones that are on the right side of the table, not the left side. I don't see any reason to put any buffs or resources into the left side. They don't need any help at this point. We did talk about the chapter master is down here in the corner. Even if the OBSEC doesn't allow him to control this objective beginning his turn, he just gets he's not going to get 8. He will get a 4 if he loses that. That's a big deal. Because we said TJ needs to claw back about 3 points. That's 4 right there if he takes that away. He could easily get Stranglehold back because even if there are rubrics here, this captain can come up and turn off the OBSEC next turn. But if he loses 4 points right now, he's back behind the 8 ball again. He's going to find a way to recover that, which the less time there is left in the game, obviously there are fewer opportunities to recover points that have been lost earlier.
Yep.
So we will quickly run out of time to make up that gap. It's going to be close, though. This game is not a blowout for either player by any means.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I think this has been a good game to watch. And as we've been talking about, these KHG games in 40K are often the most interesting because there's, so much expression in how these players operate each of their armies, and there's so much you can glean about how they plan to execute their game plan based on the moves that they take earlier on in the turn. And you can sort of see these games less of a hammer blow and more of almost a flow chart where you can kind of chart out where the units are going to go and the actions and responses each player has taken to those different moves. Yeah, we're just trying to determine exactly what is holding. Who's got the right-hand objective right now? Ooh, and it looks like the Sanguinary Guards start dropping like flies. Uh-oh. There they go.
It's not what I want to see, Trevi.
Yeah, I think the answer may very quickly be that these Scarab or the Rubric Marines that are there are going to be holding it because that was a lot of blood and just casualties on that.
That looked like at least 3.5.
Is Khorne being sated today on the Khorne table?
I mean, not as much as he wants, based on the standard we set yesterday.
To be fair, yeah. One of these armies, though, is made up of, like, zombie robots, so...
Does Khorne even benefit if Thousand Suns die? Like, does that help him? There's literally no blood for the blood god there, right?
Yeah. It's just dust for the...
Dust for the dust god.
Bunny.
Dust for the Roomba.
Dust for the Roomba.
Although there's no Death Guard. The Roombas are in Death Guard. They're the little Mephitic Blight Haulers or the Death Roombas. All right, so our table boss says that if the Intercessors die on that objective, there's no way the OBSEC could steal it away from the Rubric Marines. But there is, I believe there's one Intercessor left, but I'm pretty sure, it's hard to say because the Thousand Suns are blending in a bit with our objective, but it looks like there's at least 3 Rubric Marines touching that objective.
Yep. Can we zoom this camera at all?
I cannot, unfortunately. I have tried. It does not allow me to do that on this camera.
Sad.
The bane of not TTS, right? can't get all the great shots all the time.
Imagine how disappointed Nids are when cracking open Rubric Marines only to find dust bunnies inside. It's true, chat. Except all those sorcerers, they're real people, though, right? And so that is some delicious gray matter.
So Aramon's real, but the rest of them are zombies.
Aramon's a regular man. Okay. That's why the sorcerers don't have all his dust.
I did not know they didn't. I just assumed it was army-wide.
Yep. If you assign a 1 damage attack to a sorcerer, their armor save does not improve.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's pretty wild.
Oh, that's cool. That's a nice little flavor piece.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if they're still the same too, but back in the day, the River Marine unit was move 5, except the sorcerer inside was move 6. So, so he slightly outpaced the unit. He ended up getting into the front pretty quickly.
All right, so the far side objective characters that are over there with the Rubiks did lots of mortals according to our table boss. They then do a bunch of damage and then run away. So they ran away in the psychic phase to make sure they're not in range of anything. We also did psychic interrogation again. I imagine that one was made undeniable, but it went off. So we're continuing to just plod along the maxing that plan. Very quickly racking up Wrath of Magnus, as you pointed out. There's no way the Blood Angels are going to keep up with the amount of psychic damage that 1,000 Suns are doing.
Yeah. Yeah, that secondary is so good because, while it is Psyker dependent, it requires your opponent to have Psykers. Like we talked about before, maybe outside Tyranids, there is no army in the game that contends with 1,000 Suns for psychic phase damage. So it is, as long as you're not giving your opponent nothing to cast spells at.
This is a secondary that people said it makes it worthless, or it makes it bad to bring a single Psyker in your list now, right? I remember when the 1,000 Suns came out, there was discussion about is it actually a liability to have a single Psyker, because this, as you're saying, is so easy to do at this point.
Yeah, it would not only, it's the double whammy for this matchup because it would unlock Wrath of Magnus, but not allow you to abhor the Witch.
Right.
So you lost your best secondary, and they gained an incredibly powerful secondary. But now that Warpcraft secondaries are so powerful and so popular, that paradigm has shifted quite a bit. Whether or not, now that we have Tyranid FAQs coming down and, how the power dynamic of the top tier of 40k changes, we'll have to see, but it may be that 1,000 Suns get pushed back up there and people start looking for more Abhor the Witch outs.
To be fair, is Wrath of Magnus better than Warp Ritual, though? Because we got to talk about Warp Ritual yesterday. And
Warp Ritual pretty good.
Warp Ritual, clearly the best psychic secondary from what we've seen.
It's super strong.
Just not yesterday. That was if you have not had a chance to watch the Space Wolf versus Dark Angels match from yesterday, I highly encourage you to subscribe so you can unlock that video and go back and check it out. Because that game was hilariously fun to watch.
Absolutely zany game. So good.
All right, so we spent a Cabal point for the Occult Sorcerer to Super Smite, and then we also resurrected a Cult Terminator back. Which is not what you want to see.
Love it.
Not a Blendless player. If you're 1,000 Suns, it's probably great.
Yeah.
But
Owen Bangles, Libby, good into Custodes. Yeah, any of those factions that don't have great psychic defense, you unlock all those Warcraft secondaries, and man, does it feel good when your opponent doesn't have good denies against them.
Yeah. This is not the matchup the Librarian even wants to exist in.
No.
Because he's kitted it out to take away invulns and things like that, and now with Armor Contempt, the invuln is so redundant a lot of the times that stripping the invuln doesn't even actually do anything in this situation. They're gonna have 3 or 4 up armor saves. Nothing that he brought the Librarian for is gonna work in this match at all, which is unfortunate. I do love it in lots of other matches like Custodes, like we talked about. Taking those invulns away can definitely be very useful.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Owen Bengals, the null zone is this against the new Space Marines. The null zone is not as good as it used to be for sure.
Yeah, so many people moving to not leaving their storm shields at home effectively. That there are lots of situations where removing invulnerable saves is not great.
Oh no, Trevi, our hero,
our buddy over here.
These Terminators here
taking some shots at him.
Are taking shots at our hero.
Leave.
You
Speedy alone.
You leave Mr. Speedy alone, TJ. You're being mean.
How dare you? How dare?
That is just a land speeder out here trying to overperform as a 55-point model. You leave him alone.
Now I wonder exactly where that captain is in that ruin. Is there a universe where he's close enough to emergency disembark a scout into range of his OBSEC aura? Steal that objective away.
Ooh, I'll ask the table judge. Yeah,
I imagine it looks a little far. I'm looking at it, but it would be cool.
I don't think I've ever made that noise before. The noise of that. I was like, that was a lot.
You're like, we're really reaching for the stars here.
All right, our table boss is going to point to the chapter master, so we know.
Perfect. Oh,
okay, there's no way.
All
there's
the
no way.
In the back. Oh.
All right. That would have been a spicy play, but that didn't work. Oh no, he's gone! He's gone, Trevi.
No!
Speedy, the hero.
No!
The hero of the Imperium has been slain in his prime.
Oh no!
All right,
Yeah,
and again, unfortunately, the scouts no longer OBSEC like they used to be.
No longer upside, but importantly, they are still within 6 inches of the center of the
Yes.
table, so they will still score the Osa moment, and that's another one of the reasons that Scouts plus Storm Speeder combo is so powerful.
Yeah.
Because a lot of armies, and we talked about this even through Game 1 yesterday, a lot of armies don't have what it takes to kill both the transport and then capitalize on the units inside. And if you can't do that in situations like this, the Space Marine player is going to continue printing points in that Osa moment secondary.
See, I can't imagine there's many other shots on the left side of the table. Obviously, nothing on the right side of the table is going to be draw line of sight to those Terminators. Like, nothing meaningful. I'm sorry, not Terminators, Scouts. But I don't think there might be some rubrics over here. You might be able to pop a couple shots, but the likelihood of killing 4 Scouts with what's left on the left side of the table seems unlikely.
Now, can we go back to glitch cam real quick here?
Glitch for the glitch card.
Glitch us up. I wonder if the Scouts have been able to cross the midline of the table with that disembark. Because if they have, that means that they can move 6 inches and perform an Aquan data.
Yeah.
And if they're able to do that, I mean, that's a big deal. We're only down to 4 points on Retrieve Nakmund. Getting up to 8 would shore up Sam's score quite a bit here.
Yeah. We can, I don't know if we can tell much better from, yeah. So ask our table boss if you can verify what quadrant they're on. Unfortunately, we can't rely on the overhead. It's not exactly lined up with the map. There's a little bit of edges that are not showing. But based on where the center of this midfield objective is, it doesn't look like they're completely over it, which means they probably can't all get 6 inches away from it, unfortunately. It looks like this back one is probably behind the middle of this objective.
Yep.
Unless our camera is tilted, I guess, a little bit. I guess it could be possible.
Right.
Players do have a tendency to bump into things.
I have heard that.
Yeah.
They are clumsy oafs, those players. It's just like a bunch of gorillas playing this game. Yeah, I'm sure we'll find out momentarily here exactly where the positioning of that guy is.
Right.
It is, it's a pretty good game of 40K when you're looking for basically millimeter measurements in order to try to fish for outs here.
Possibly Reef, I'm not sure. We haven't heard any. We've had audio issues this weekend, but we have not heard any visual issues being reported.
Yeah, so I have us on 640p. We can take a look at that.
I can look into that. I'm not sure I can do anything about it right now, but I can definitely look into it as we are about to hit the halfway point. We still got 5 games of 40K to play, and if there's a way we can fix it, I will absolutely fix it.
Yeah, I wonder if we can turn the brightness up on the overhead camera. It is a little dark, chat is saying.
Let's see what I can do.
Oh. Yeah, so one of the scouts did die extricating themselves from the Detroit transport, getting out there, so they would have to roll for the Nakman data. But there is certainly the possibility that they're able to complete that secondary.
I'm not sure if that's better or not.
It does look darker. I think we'd have to turn it up a little bit, maybe. Let us know if that's looking better, a little bit better, chat.
All right. I fiddled with some things. Chat, tell me if you like it more or worse. We're going to do some eye doctor tests. Better or worse, please. All right, so Sanguinary Heart or big Blood Angels play there. Love that. Blood Angels have exactly one way to get a 6-inch heroic, and it's on Sanguinary Guard. We just did it into Rubric Marines.
So that is the Rubric Marine unit on the right-hand side.
I believe those were the ones that were touching the center objective and messing that up.
Oh, so they were surviving Sanguinary Guard in the
There
center.
were,
is
yeah,
what we're
there were
saying.
Sanguinary Guard.
Oh,
Wait, let me get back to this.
yeah. So we did
Yeah.
see Sam. I was wondering about this when it was happening. He was pulling the Sanguinary Guard that were standing on the objective, which surprised me a little bit because not only were they then not on the objective, but also they were no longer they were removing themselves from threat range of the Scarab Cult Terminators. But if he was keeping a model within 6 inches of those rubrics in order to clear them, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
And that's going to push Sam back up to an 8-point primary this turn.
Which is
so
big because we were worried he was going to lose those 4 points. We put him back behind.
Yeah, he is maintaining his lead there. That's huge.
That's a big deal.
And that
not a strat that comes up often because very rarely you're Sanguinary Guard near something that's not already dead.
No, and this could steamroll here because it looks like those Sanguinary Guard wiped that Rubric squad and are pushing into the characters on TJ's home objective.
Yep. And as you predicted, our scouts are rolling for R&D. They do have a 50-50. There's only 4 of them. But they are in position to R&D.
Data.
Yeah. I think I'm on your cord, sir. I'm sorry.
Oh my god.
All right. Guys, all I can change right now is the brightness. I will absolutely look into the resolution after this round is over. Thank you for letting me know.
Those heroic intervention stratagems are so difficult to keep at the forefront of your mind, especially we're round 4 into a GT. And that's an interesting one because it's a singular unit.
It is literally only Sanguinary Guard. Yeah.
It's not like where you play against, Necrons and all the Canoptech stuff intervenes,
Yep.
or Space Wolves, or everything in the Space Wolves already can intervene, and that's part of the power of that faction. In Sanguinary Guard, it's one unit.
Yeah. One unit can just all of a sudden get 6 inches, which they never did before.
Yeah. Oh man.
Oh, that is huge. I don't think we can overstate how big of a deal that is.
Do you remember when that stratagem was usable at anything? It was pretty wild. Crazy days.
Don't make me more wistful for the Blood Angels days of yesteryear, all right?
Oh, what a faction.
Do you remember when Blood Angels came out in 8th edition and they could just do everything in your opponent's deployment zone on the first turn before your opponent moved? That was fun. I would deep strike my entire army in your deployment zone before you take a turn. That was great. I loved it.
So can we get a confirmation on the character that's on TJ's home objective?
This game is great.
Yeah, that turned this game right on its head. That move from Sam.
Right,
and he still has one Sanguinary Guard unit in, still
that back right,
hiding in that ruin, ready to go. He has the OBSEC captain, and I wonder if maybe because the Rights of War affects the captain himself, maybe the game plan is to just in order to forestall the late game, create a situation where he forces TJ to kill both the captain and the entire Sanguinary Guard unit in order to take that objective away. And if he can't, it's going to be bad.
I'm so excited right now, Trey. Like that play, those types of strats. I don't even like thinking of them as gotchas because I don't feel like I'm sure he told him he could do it. I don't think that stopped what Trevi had to do. I'm sorry, not Trevi. TJ. I apologize. TJ had to advance to get in that position anyway. He clearly wanted to challenge that objective. I don't think he avoids doing that. But those types of strats that could just pull something out of nowhere, I love when they actually have an impact on the game.
Yeah. So it looks like Table Boss is saying it's actually just a Chaos
Spawn.
That's
just a Chaos Spawn, so it's going to die.
Yeah, it is.
that Spawn did not expect to be challenged in that position.
It's true. He was having a great old time. He's like, the Dark Gods have blessed me with a big old body I can use to stand on objectives all day. And he's there, having a picnic and picking his nose. And then these two random Sanguinary Guard jerks come roaring out of the sky on wings of fire, as it were, and cut him into 1,000 pieces.
Yeah, so Owen Bengal's saying that he thinks TJ needs to be prioritizing his captain. It takes away OBSEC. That may be true, but there's a reason those characters are hiding in that ruin. Is that Blood Angels players are very known to play Hero Hammer. We love to take individual characters that wildly overperform for what an individual character typically can do. And if you can have all of your characters still alive, they basically each count as entire units of things on like turns 4 and 5 because they just start putting out unit-worthy amounts of damage. And so holding those back for the late game is a very common Blood Angels tactic, is that you want to protect those so that you still have a lot of damage at the end of the game. You don't want to worry about having to advance in the middle of the game, charge things in the middle of the game, your things die, and then you just don't have damage left to interact. You definitely want to be protecting those. And as we see now, he had been protecting stuff in that ruin, and now it's time to come out and play. As the Sanguinary Guard are now flying out into the face of these Occult Terminators in the corner, and I imagine the characters are not likely to be very far behind.
Yeah.
So the players apparently have started talking about kind of as we have what is left on the table for TJ to score. They are going to play out turn 4 at the very least, but they are both acknowledging what we have identified, that TJ has been really hurt on primary, and there may not be enough points left on the table to pull the victory out. However, TJ has done very well this weekend. He's not losing by a ton. He's still scoring very well in this game. There's only going to be 1 or 2 undefeateds that make top 8, and then everyone else is going to be X and 1 for tomorrow.
Yeah.
So TJ still has plenty to play for, even if he doesn't think he can actually win this game anymore.
Yeah, so this turn looks like Sam, he has scored his 8.
That might be the
maintaining
offset
control.
character that just flew over there.
I think that looks like it. And it looks like he's that big Sanguinary Guard squad on the right-hand side, moving up to the Rupert Marines there. It looks like they have finally broken cover out of the ruin and are moving in.
Getting confirmation from a table judge. We
So
know somebody just flew in the middle.
we're gonna probably put OBSEC on the right-hand objective. We're gonna knock that Chaos Spawn off of the center objective, and we're gonna drop TJ down to a 4-pointer, just holding the left-hand objective. Yeah, that's super tough to come back from at this stage of the game.
I can't quite tell from this. I think that's the captain. I think that's the OBSEC captain in the middle.
Definitely looks like a Space Marine character with a jump pack.
It does.
So that really differentiates it from all the different Blood Angels characters.
The fact
that are
that
all
it's
very
black
different.
makes me think that it's a captain, because that is the one you would be most likely to occasionally put in Death Company armor.
Are you sure that's not the librarian?
It could be. It's hard for me to say. We're
He does
checking
have
with
a big sword.
yeah.
The captain has a hammer.
No, the captain has a sword.
Oh, captain
Captain
also
has
has
a
a
relic
sword.
blade.
Okay, well, yeah, it could be anyone then. We have a couple more results coming in as we're just, sort of closing out this game. Brenton Weiss, that we talked about earlier on Table 4 versus Jared Vale, going down 30-89. Jared taking it down with his Harlequins with a massive score. Manik Gudimani maintaining his perfect record. Another 100-point win against Eric Glasgow. That is Tyranids versus Eric's Necrons. Oh, Necrons. That's sad. And then we have Kyle Perry moving forward with Eldari beating Mike Nee's Pure Harlequins. A lot of Eldari Civil Wars this game, this round.
So this is the librarian. Libby has floated to the
Libby
middle.
is in the center.
So the other characters follow the Sanguinary Guard onto the right side objective.
Perfect.
So I don't believe there's anybody left in this ruin because it's largely irrelevant at this point who's in there.
Yep. So what can TJ score out here? He's going to get a 4 for bottom round 4. But then he does have a potential, assuming that things go very well for him, to be fair, he does have a potential 12-pointer on top 5. He can also, if he kills one of the units in the middle this coming turn, and then also is able to score his primary next turn, that means that he's going to get a potential 20 additional points on primary, which would put him up to only 34. That's not very good.
That's not great.
It looks like we did roll out our R&D, and the scouts did complete it. So we're at 8 points on Sam Procopio for that secondary. Sam also going to be scoring out his Stranglehold this turn, and I have to imagine he'll probably get it next turn. So
and something we talked about here also, we were curious if anything could get to the back for the other R&D. These are troops. If he has planned this out, they could possibly just move up 6 and automatically get that off to finish R&D for Sam.
Yeah,
it's hard. I'm not sure they're in position, but they
it
could
looks
be.
like those are inside are on Sam's half of the table, which means they won't have the distance to move far enough past the midline to
I'm
get
not
retrieve
sure
knock wound.
that might be an individual incursor left. There may be a single troop here that
Yeah.
he's not going to be able to target that could just walk up here and do it next turn.
Yeah, could you imagine if that?
I think there's a real
This one
possibility
guy-
that's what's happening.
He's just like, 1 or 2, let's do it.
Yeah.
Get that knock wound data.
No. He just does it automatically as a troop.
No, you have to roll. You just get +1.
Oh no, you're right. I'm sorry. You're right. In my head, it's always automatic.
Yeah. You're like a 5
Sorry
man,
about
and
that.
it's troops.
Yeah.
It always goes off.
Yeah.
You're like, well,
You're
not if you
absolutely right.
die.
In my head, it's just troops automatically do it all the time.
That would be nice. So essentially, what we're looking for is that Sam is going to be up probably 11 points on primary. Can TJ make up those 11 on secondaries? And I think it's going to be tough because he'll probably max Stranglehold and Wrath of Magnus. He'll actually probably max all 3. But if Sam's only losses are those 7 points on Retrieve Knockwind data, he's still going to win by 4 points.
So, the Eradicators shot these Terminators in the top right corner. They killed one of them. But we see that the charge has apparently been made as the Sanguinary Guard are now moving across and standing right in front of them. Now, this seems, it's hard for me to say exactly. Unfortunately, our camera angle is not allowing us to see exactly how these are ranked up. If they're strung out like in a 2x2 line vertically on the side of the table, they're not all going to be able to attack Sanguinary Guard, obviously. So it's going to be, there is a non-0% chance that Sanguinary Guard could hold this position through this turn, and then it completely shut down what the Terminators could do on TJ's turn.
Yep.
Okay, so we tried Hammer of Wrath again. This time we killed 2.5 Terminators, 7 mortals off Hammer of Wrath.
Whoa! Well, it is a much larger unit, to be fair, right? But
it's only got 2 more models in the Death Company.
That's wild. Yeah. Absolutely wild.
That's 6. We talked about math lessons yesterday, Trevi. 7 Terminators are fewer than 10 Terminators.
Wow.
So,
I'm glad that we have a math teacher on the stream. It really helps us out.
Public education in America, everybody.
Yeah. I'm a product of public education, so it's good that Lyle's here to support me because those numbers
I can teach you math and you can teach me how to play 40K. So, I feel like we both win in this situation. All right, we're rolling out.
Goodbye, Chaos Spawn.
That Chaos Spawn is gone. Which that is such a huge swing.
That was
played
wild.
Out.
Yeah, I think that single heroic intervention
changed everything.
It stopped. Yeah, it scored an additional 4 for Sam, and then has blocked a 4 for TJ.
This is exactly what we said
Stranglehold
had to
probably
happen.
was going to score anyway. So it was an 8-point swing off that 1 CP strat. Oh, what a strat that is! Amazing.
This is what we talked about at the beginning of the game. The way the players played the first 2 turns, TJ was going to win by 7. There was nothing that could be done. Our Blenders player had to find a way to steal points away somehow. He didn't want to just run across the table. He didn't want to be just caught out in the wind in the middle of the table, allow everything to come at him. He had to find a way where could he methodically and still playing safe find points he could take away, and he has found them at every opportunity he could.
Absolutely.
This is a clinic, I would almost say, on how to identify exactly what you have to do to win a game and find where that may exist on the table.
Yep. I also think it felt to me like TJ might have respected the threat range of the Blood Angels a little bit too much. I think the big downside here is that there's 20 Scarab Terminators that are just not on objectives.
Yep.
And as much as TJ was able to kill a lot of Sam's stuff, as we said before, points win games, dead models don't, right?
Yep.
So he was able to kill them while they were standing on objectives and his models weren't, and that did not work well for him.
Yep.
Part of that is the mission. I think this mission tends to really benefit aggressive play, where you can springboard off of the center objectives and the center ruins and push to the objectives in the middle, which is what Blood Angels are great at. A little bit less so for the Scarab Cults, but I think, definitely would have liked to see some more aggressive play from TJ.
So what happened here is we had our Sanguinary Guard that I guess were here-ish, and they have come up here to the Terminators. Right here, the characters that were over here have come up and finished off the rubrics that were up here.
Yep.
So, and even if they hadn't, it didn't matter because we have the Chapter Master that turns off all the rubrics OBSEC while giving, I don't think it gives it to characters. So they didn't have OBSEC, but they would have at least just model for model, he wasn't going to hold that objective no matter what.
Yep.
So, and he didn't have to because he has Tic-Tac-Toe right here for Stranglehold.
Boom.
So he doesn't even need that side objective.
Yep. The old Tic-Tac-Toe. Connect 3. I've done it. We got Scary from Scarcast in the chat. How's it going,
Yeah,
Scary?
how's it going, Scary? You
Thanks
know,
for joining.
we invited Trevi back this year because Trevi's awesome. I would have loved to have you also, Scary. You joined us last year for MCM for our inaugural year. Hopefully, we can get you back at some time in the future as well. We gotta get the band back together.
Looks like the players just shook out it actually, not on camera. They're just off, but I think that is going to be Sam taking it down. They're just going to score out the last couple of points here, it looks like, but it will probably be a 93-point win. To TJ's probably 89, we said.
Yeah, so it looks we're assuming that I think we should max primary, secondaries. Yeah, it might be. Yeah, it's 97 or 93. It's one of the two. They might, if they want to bother to roll for R&D for the last turn, they could. They don't have to. That would be
I
the
don't
only
know.
thing that
Oh,
could
I
get it
guess,
to 97.
if like a random single
Yeah.
that one in cursor or whatever rolls
Yeah.
for it.
So otherwise, it's 93.
Wow, what a game!
That was super fun to watch.
That was a really interesting one.
If you were interested in joining competitive 40K, and you were much like I was, 2 years ago when I was wanting to get into the tournament scene, and I was like, I don't know. I'm worried everyone's just going to bring lists that blow me off the table, and I was going to get tabled on turn 1 or turn 2 all the time. It's going to be frustrating. This game is representative of what tournament play is like.
Yeah.
This is what I love to see. This is what most games I think at tournaments, once you kind of get the feel of what you're doing, this is what you should expect to see at tournaments: is meaningful decisions that have large impacts on the game. It's not about tabling your opponent. Both players finish with many things on the table. This is what I love to see when I go to tournaments. These are the games I want to personally play, where both players are making decisions and trading little advantages back and forth over the course of the game.
Yep.
Very, very fun. All right, while the players are talking out, we get our final score. I think Trevi is checking to see, do we have any more updates from our undefeateds?
No more undefeateds. We just have a list of 4-0s right now. 2 Harlequins, 2 Tyranids, actually. Split right down the middle, Harlequins, Tyranids. Manakudi Bani with that 4-0, 400 battle points, Lyle.
So he's also in our local play group. And for the last month or so, because he's on typically the double Malicept or double Harpy, all the good stuff, Tyranid type list. I think he has had 2 games in the last 3 tournaments we've played where he did not score 100 points.
Amazing.
And I think those were both against other Tyranids. No, one was against Brad Chester's Eldar, which is understandable also why you might not get 100. Brad's very, very experienced Eldar player. But he has had far more 100-point games than he has had games where he did not score 100 points.
Yep. So then our other undefeated Tyranid, Joshua Manish, also playing double Harpies. Then we have Kyle Perry and Jared Vale 4-0 with Harlequins.
Corey, the final score should be 93. Yeah, it doesn't matter for that. We know it's 93. It's okay.
Yeah, so just like we said, 93-89. Would it be fair to say that it might literally have just come down to that heroic intervention?
That immediately got 4 points.
Yeah. Incredible.
I think there's
That's
a possibility they're being a little bit generous the way they talk it out with the points TJ could get. Because I'm not. Well, no, they're just assuming he gets one because everyone on turn 2 gets one.
Pretty sure you're gonna get. Pretty sure you're gonna get second interrogation and Mathematics. Yeah, those are easy.
Yeah. So literally that heroic intervention. Now that's not fair to say it was just a heroic intervention because he had put himself in position to be ahead by 4 before that happened, and then TJ clawed it back. So it was kind of a 3-step trading back and forth of 4 points here and there. But that at the end, that strat is what ended up winning him the game.
Yeah, I wonder what that advance roll looked like for those Rubric Marines, because I know they advanced to that center objective. And I wonder if there was, maybe a position for them to move outside of the heroic intervention range, or maybe their advance roll just wasn't high enough because they are only speed 5, so that they weren't quite able to get out, and TJ didn't really have a choice. But kind of crazy. A game came down to be that close, I think, and down to a 4-point differential. Super close.
Right.
Yep.
Hey, Corey.
Well, chat, I think that's going to wrap it up for us for this round. We'll see if we get any more additional scores put in as we wrap up this round of the event, although we still have 30 minutes left on the timer. Looks like another undefeated player moving forward, Jamie Beaton, playing against Tyranids, using or playing against Brandon Valays.
All right. And before we go, Trevi,
The
the players are doing us a favor. We have to have one less shot at the hero of this game, Speedy the Land
Stormy
Speeder.
boy!
Speedy the Storm Speeder, who single-handedly what was our final calculation? 8 points by himself? 9 points by himself?
Do we include his disembarkation of the scout squad?
I say the unit, him plus the scouts.
Okay,
total.
so they scored.
They did get the R&D after that.
Yes, they scored 3 turns of primary bonus, right?
Yeah, so 6.
3 turns of oath.
So another 6, and 3 strangleholds being there in the middle.
And then 3 strangleholds. So
that's
20,
15 total.
So that's
plus
21.
6
right?
plus.
Oh yeah. No.
6 plus 6 plus 9. Yeah. 20. Yeah, I did only 1 6. 6
Yes.
plus 9 is 15. Plus another 6 is 21.
21.
Plus 4 for the scouts that are inside of it.
25 points. Just 25 points.
25 points.
That's fine.
From the speeder
I mean,
and the
it's fine.
scouts inside of it, which is like 115 points total.
Yeah.
Or 125 points, something like that. The hero that Blood Angels need right
Absolute monster of a unit. So good.
Oh man, I love it.
You
I
see
love it
Space
so
Marine
much.
players, Scouts good. Nerf Scouts, Scouts OP.
All right. That was so much fun to
That was
start
a
our
sweet
day.
game.
That
Absolutely.
is the way I want to start day 2.
Yep.
I think from what we've heard, based on what Trevi has told us, I don't think we can run from the High Fleet any longer.
Yeah, unlikely. We'll see how the actual pairings get placed out, because we are using random pairings today, so there's no chicanery with pairings,
Yep.
but
And there's still a lot of other armies in play to win this event, because even if we are down to a handful of undefeateds, we have 6 rounds before we cut to a top 8 tomorrow. Assuredly, there's going to be at least 6 excellent ones in that top 8.
Yep.
People who we could have seen people who have been on stream earlier. They lost in this round. They lost yesterday. Whatever. Still alive. There are a lot of people who are still alive at X1 for tomorrow. So the meta's here. It's time to talk about the meta. But there's still a lot of different lists, a lot of people who are still alive to win this event. I would argue TJ still absolutely alive to win this event. 89-point loss. That's awesome. Like, that is going to help your tiebreakers moving forward. So TJ absolutely still alive. All the people we've talked about, Sam had that close loss to Tyranids. With our Space Wolves absolutely still alive for tomorrow. So there's a lot to play for, and we're going to keep you guys updated as the day goes on.
Yep.
So,
well, thanks
right.
everyone in chat for joining us.
Yep. We are going to, I think, set up a countdown stream if I can at some point. We're going to leave the stream on.
Well, do we want to? We might have to restart if we want to check.
Oh, that's right. We got to fix it. We're going to look
rates.
into the graphics, and then we will have the stream up as soon as possible with the countdown timer, or at least what time we're going to start it. I believe it's going to be around 1 o'clock.
Yep.
After we have lunch break. But we have a lot of 40K left. We are still under 50% of the way through the tournament, which is
5 more games.
Super exciting. Like,
I'm
the games have all been so good.
Yeah,
They've been so much fun.
We're moving to my favorite part of any broadcasting competitive 40K, which is that as the filter narrows, as the funnel condenses, and we get to the higher skilled players at the end of the event, all of these games become monumentally contentious. Yeah. They are so tight and so fun to watch, and dude, I'm so excited for it.
I'm so excited. Like, we know we've had so much fun already, and it's only going to get better.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's only going to get better. All right, so we're going to go see if we can fix some of those audio or those visual